bets for this and every game on Sports Grid Radio.
The under's minus 125. Heavy juice to the under.
Every home run hit and every strikeout thrown can change the line.
I can't for the life of me figure out how you can favor a team that never wins, ever.
If you're looking for sports talk centered around the latest odds and prop bets for games, races, tournaments, or any sporting event, Sports Grid Radio, SiriusXM, Channel 159.
This is Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum and host of the SiriusXM original podcast, Black Diamonds. Hear stories about the legends of the Negro Leagues and conversations with the all-time greats they've influenced, like five-time World Series champion Derek Jeter.
I don't care what race you are. You need to know your past. This is U.S. history. It's not just baseball history.
Hear over 70 episodes of the award-winning Black Diamonds podcast, available now on the SiriusXM app or wherever you get your podcasts.
The NASCAR Cup Series is on SiriusXM.
Let's go, man!
We're back on the track Sunday,
2:30 p.m. Eastern.
It's the Ally 400
from Nashville Superspeedway.
Checker flag, baby. Yeah!
SiriusXM NASCAR Radio Channel 90 in the car and on the all-new SiriusXM app.
Oh, yeah!
Get closer to everything that moves you wherever you are with the SiriusXM app.
Let's make some smoke and drink some beer. Yeah!
The Titans of Europe are gathered once again for the Euros.
Cristiano Ronaldo for Portugal.
Soccer's best, assembled to represent their nation.
Oh, my word, from Kylian Mbappe. And it's another magnificent goal for France.
Trying to reach the pinnacle of European soccer.
Italy are champions of Europe.
Hear the top matches and expert analysis from Euro 2024 all month long on Fox Sports 83 and SiriusXM FC 157. Or listen anytime on the all-new SiriusXM app.
Slams the ball to right field. Way back. Way gone.
Is Toronto Blue Jays baseball.
Low rounding and heading for second to throw. In time.
On the Sportsnet Radio Network.
A winning feeling at last. The Blue Jays ended their losing streak with a bang yesterday, posting a June best 9 runs to down the Red Sox and even up the series. Now Toronto tries to get greedy and win the series. Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a good hump day. I'm Ben Schulman alongside former Major League pitcher Chris LaRue. Show Ali is our host and producer, and Austin Mackey is our technical director. Toronto Blue Jays baseball is brought to you by the local family-owned Crown Rust Control Centers in Hearst and New Liskeard. Protect your vehicle from rust today. Find your local family-owned Crown at crown.com, Canada's #1 rust protection. Yariel Rodriguez takes the ball, trying to bounce back from a tough return to the rotation on Friday. The righty was bounced in the second inning of that game. He faces Cutter Crawford, who's only pitched in 1 Red Sox win after May 1st. The series finale coming up next. You're listening to Blue Jays Baseball, streaming on Sportsnet.ca, the Sportsnet app, and across the Sportsnet Radio Network.
When Blue Jays starter Kevin Gausman is on the mound, you hear a lot of pops at Rogers Center. The pop of the ball hitting the catcher's mitt. The pop of the crowd as they cheer on another Gausman strikeout. But most importantly for Goss, the pop of his bubble gum.
Swing and a miss. Got him on the splitter again. One of the best at his craft.
Gausman loves his gum. So be one of the first 15,000 fans on Wednesday, July 3rd, and get your Kevin Gausman bubblegum bobblehead. Get your tickets at BlueJays.com.
Not tomorrow, not someday. The home improvements begin today. It's game on with Timber Mart. Build that deck, raise that fence, landscape till your property is beautiful. Don't pay for 12 months on the Timber Mart Deferred Payment Program. Your locally owned, completely Canadian hub of building and renovation expertise. Get your Timber Mart credit card at participating locations and pay later. 12 months later. Conditions apply. Ask in store for details or apply at timbermart.ca.
At Crown Rust Control Center, protection runs deep because every Crown Rust Control Center is owned by a local family who cares beyond business. Your Crown Rust Control Center is 100% committed to their product, to you, to their community, which is your community. Protecting you and what matters to you is equally important as protecting your vehicle. Did you know your vehicle rusts faster in warm weather? Protect your vehicle today. For a special summer offer, find your local family-owned Crown Rust Control Center at crown.com.
SiriusXM Fight Nation is hitting the road with a stop in Las Vegas for International Fight Week.
Viva Las
Las Vegas. Beginning June 27th at 12 Eastern, SiriusXM Fight Nation will broadcast live from UFC X all week long ahead of UFC 303. Catch MMA Today and more special programming direct from Sin City.
Vegas, baby, Vegas!
Your home for the best UFC 303 coverage is SiriusXM Fight Nation Channel 156.
Jays fans, this is George Springer, and you're listening to Blue Jays Baseball on SiriusXM.
George Springer, airborne, snatches it out of the sky.
Work.
3-1 pitch. Swing and a fly ball center field. Racing back to Rand, looking out at the triangle. It bangs off the wall. Kiermaier scores. Bassitt around third. He scores. It's a 2-run double for Guerrero.
You know, he's on time. He's on time for the fastball right now. Even going back to Cleveland, the homer he hits off Carrasco is in off the plate, and you can't do that unless you're on time. So he's comfortable hitting this ballpark. We know that, and he's kind of carried it over. But he's just taking good swings on good pitches, and you kind of see the results.
Junior drove in 4 yesterday. George Springer had 3 hits, including a homer. Kevin Kiermaier had 3 hits, and the Blue Jays beat the Red Sox 9-4. The rubber match is about to get underway. I'm Ben Schulman alongside Chris LaRue. Thanks so much for joining us. And Chris, the Blue Jays, for the first time in over a week, have a chance to win a series.
Yeah, yesterday's game was probably their most complete game in a long time. Let's say about 7 or 8 days. And this is an important ball game, not only because Boston is ahead of them in that wild card race, but Yariel Rodriguez is on the mound. This is an important piece of their starting rotation. In his last start against Cleveland, he didn't look great. The fastball was a bit erratic. I think tonight the split finger will be very important. He's only thrown that split finger 8% of the time this season, but there are 8 lefties in this Boston Red Sox lineup, and that split finger is a pitch that runs arm side, and you need that pitch when you're facing that many lefties. You can't just throw a curveball. You can't throw a slider every single off-speed pitch. You need something that runs arm side.
We'll see what the Cuban righty can do today in his second start back off the injured list. Before we get there, though, let's go to the Canadian, I believe, righty, Show Ali, today's host.
Thank you very much, Ben. Welcome back, everyone, inside Baseball Control. Toronto native, Show Ali with you. Hope you're all doing well. Before we check out the Bet365 standings update, let's check in with Blair and Barker. They had Chris Bassitt on with them earlier this afternoon.
Chris, how are you and the pitch comp getting along?
It's fine. It's good. It's just obviously them shortening the time is a little tricky, but overall it's fine.
It seems to me that you've actually, watching you on TV and just saying, I think it looks to me like you've kind of turned it into a bit of a weapon, to be honest. For you, in a good way.
It's not a. I mean, it is what it is. It's the nature of the game now with the pitch clock, and obviously with running games and everything else like that, it's very difficult to say control a running game, so-called catch your breath when you have so little time in between pitches now. So kind of me being able to just call my own game, not just shake off or anything like that. We get to buy an extra second or two. But for the guys that really don't call their own game, which I understand a lot of them don't, and I'm not saying everyone should, but the guys that don't, it's harder to control a running game. It's harder to so-called catch your breath because you're constantly kind of always at the mercy of the clock because you're running time down a lot faster by basically not calling your own game.
Yariel's pitching tonight, Chris. What's been your sort of first impressions with him, and what do you think he needs to do to sort of help his game along a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, really electric stuff. I think his fastball usage needs to go up a little bit, and then just get him more in the zone and more comfortable throwing in the zone. But I mean, it's the beauty of the game that we really don't know yet what lineups are trying to do with him. He's so new that hitters are still trying to adjust to what he does, and we're trying to adjust the same way of what he should do to hitters. And it's a learning curve. And so I think he's doing a really good job of it. It's just a matter of getting him in the zone, because the more you're in the zone, the more you can kind of figure out, okay, this is my strengths, these are my weaknesses. But I mean, if you're constantly behind in counts, it's harder to figure that out. So I would just say, like I said, more fastballs and be in the zone.
That is Blue Jays pitcher Chris Bassitt on with Blair and Barker earlier this afternoon. Before we get to the lineups, let's check out the Bet365 standings update. At Bet365, you can watch thousands of live games, build your own bet, and you can even make a bet while the game is still being played. 19 plus, play responsibly, Ontario only. Let's check out the AL East. Entering play today, the Yankees are 52-29. The Orioles are 49-30. The Red Sox are 43-37. The Rays are 40-41. And the Blue Jays are 36-43. You just heard the national anthems wrap up at Fenway Park. Let's get you to the lineups before we get you over to Ben and Chris. Here's John Schneider's lineup. Bo Bichette is batting leadoff. It's actually quite similar to yesterday, just one change. But Bo Bichette batting leadoff. He is at shortstop. Spencer Horwitz is batting second. He's at second base. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is batting third. He is at first base. Justin Turner is DHing against his former team. He is cleaning up. Batting fifth is George Springer. He is in right field. David Schneider is batting sixth. He's in left field. Danny Jansen is batting seventh. He is catching. Akainer Falefa is batting eighth. He's at third base. And Kevin Kiermaier is in center field. He is batting ninth. At Bassitt and Barker spoke about, Yariel Rodriguez is on the mound. He will pitch for the Blue Jays. For the Red Sox, a very lefty-heavy lineup includes Jaron Duran. He's in center field. He is batting leadoff. David Hamilton is batting second. He's at shortstop. Wilyer Abreu is in right field. He is batting third. Rafael Devers is cleaning up. He is at third base as usual. Rob Ref Snyder is in left field, batting fifth. Batting sixth, Masataka Yoshida. He is DHing today. Emmanuel Valdez is at second base. He is batting seventh. Batting eighth is Dominic Smith. He is at first base. And batting ninth, former Blue Jay Reese McGuire. He is behind the dish catching for Cutter Crawford. Don't forget, we do have J-Stock this evening. Blair and Barker have the post-game show. If it doesn't rain, that is. There's a little bit of rain in the forecast, but let's hope that skies stay clear, because as long as they do, Blair and Barker will take your calls, and Jeff will throw out the numbers for you to call after the final out. All right, we're just about ready to go. Bo Bichette, who I mentioned, is leading off, taking some warm-up hacks. Let's get you over to some action. Here's Ben Schulman and Chris LaRue.
Thank you very much, Joe. We're about to get underway with the first inning, and that's brought to you by Armstrong Bird Food. Bring nature to your backyard with Armstrong, feeding Blue Jays since 1986. Visit ArmstrongBirdFood.com. Cutter Crawford on the mound, making his 17th start of the season for the Red Sox. It's been an up-and-down year for the 6'1" right-hander from Florida. He's got a 3-7 record and an earned run average at 3.59, 95 strikeouts and 28 walks in 92 2/3 innings pitched.
Well, he's got one of the craziest deliveries in all of Major League Baseball. A really short arm. I would say shorter than a catcher. Brings that ball up to his jaw and then throws the baseball. Not a fun guy to face, but like you said, he hasn't been great. A very up and down season so far.
Crawford is going to use two fastballs for the majority of his pitches. He throws a four-seam fastball most of the time, and then true to the name, throws a cutter as well. He'll mix in a sweeper, a splitter, and a knuckle curve too. And Crawford's a guy the Blue Jays have seen a decent amount, although not this season. This is the first time that the right-hander pitches against Toronto in the regular season. They did face him once in the spring. Just about to get underway in the first as Crawford finishes his warm-ups. Show had mentioned, there's a possibility of rain. We will keep an eye on that as the night goes on. Definitely clouds overhead at Fenway Park, but patches of the sky look pretty good. Patches of the sky look a little bit less than good, so we'll see what happens there. In charge of that decision, and more importantly, in charge of the balls and strikes tonight, Chad Fairchild is the home plate umpire. Ryan Wills will umpire first. Paul Clemens mans second base, and Dan Rackley is at third. Reese McGuire tosses the final warm-up pitch down to second base, and Bo Bichette is walking up to the plate. Road gray uniforms for the Blue Jays today. They wore the gray jersey and gray pants yesterday. They go back to it for the Red Sox, the home whites. Crawford steps onto the top of the hill, digs some dirt out from the rubber. He stands on the extreme first base side. Into the wind, his pitch to Bo Bichette. Called strike one. Time of the first pitch today, 7:12 Eastern. 29 degrees Celsius, 84 Fahrenheit, and cloudy at Fenway Park. The 0-1. Fouled back, 0-2. A middle fastball, but Bassitt perhaps looking for something else a little bit behind it.
This is the 4th game of 2024 that he's leading off. He was 0 for 4 last night.
Did come up with a walk and a run scored. It was his first game back from the calf strain injury that put him on the injured list. 0-2. Takes a breaking ball down and away. Spencer Horwitz and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will also hit this inning. Crawford brings the glove in front of his face. Now the wind in the pitch. Foul tipped into the glove. Strike 3. Snuck a four-seamer by him. And that's the first strikeout and first out of the day for Cutter Crawford.
Yeah, you could tell Bo Bichette was looking something slower, something off speed. Cutter Crawford just throws that 91-mile-an-hour little sinker, maybe a straight four-seamer right by him. Very hittable pitch, but Bo was looking off speed there.
So Bichette down and Spencer Horwitz up. First pitch. Called strike 1. Horwitz has played 15 games this year, the same as he played last year for the Blue Jays, but his numbers have been more impressive this season. They're really good through 15 games. Here's the 0-1. Lifted to right field. Moving over to right center, Wilyer Abreu makes the call, and he's got it. So the .348 hitter in Horwitz is retired, 2 down. Couple of quick outs for the 16th rounder by the Red Sox in 2017. Cutter Crawford attended Florida Gulf Coast University, just like his former rotation mate, Chris Sale. Bases are empty with 2 outs, and here's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for the first time. Crawford's wind and pitch. High ball 1. Guerrero hitting .288 on the season, best among qualified Blue Jays. Team leading 15 doubles, 10 homers. The 1-0. Swing and a miss. Got him out in front on a cutter outside. It's 1-1. Two doubles for Vlad yesterday in 5 at-bats. 4 RBIs. Takes the 1-1 pitch for called strike 2.
I bet he wants that pitch back. That was 93 on the outer third. Almost the same pitch that he had yesterday in that double that he hit to center field. Just missed a homer.
Hit it 409 feet. The 1-2. Holds the hands back on a breaking ball down and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes. What have you seen from Vlad recently? Because he's been on quite a run.
Well, I think it's the mechanics. Sure, the timing is right, but I think it's just the choices he's making up there. He's swinging at better pitches.
2-2. Takes a pitch high, lays off that fastball, full count.
Early on in the season, he and we still see this a little bit. He's not totally away from it, but he was swinging at a lot of sliders off the plate, and he's really cut back on that, swinging at balls that are over the heart of the plate.
Now the 3-2. And it's down and away, ball 4. For Guerrero, that's his team-leading 39th walk of the season.
And I think he's okay with taking walks. Before, he was putting a little bit too much pressure on himself, trying to drive that ball. He felt like it was his job. But he's okay with taking walks now, and that's a big step forward. That's really when you start to see better pitches.
So Guerrero on first after the walk. 2 outs, no score, top of the first inning. Cutter Crawford faces his former teammate, Justin Turner. The pitch. Swing and a cue shot grounder to second base. It is picked up and tossed over to first by Emmanuel Valdez. That one got right off the end of the bat from Turner, and that ends the inning. No runs, no hits, 1 left for the Blue Jays. No score, middle of the first. Yariel Rodriguez is on the mound next. You're listening to Blue Jays Baseball, brought to you by your local family-owned Crown Rust Control Center, streaming at sportsnet.ca and the Sportsnet Radio Network.
At Crown Rust Control, protection runs deep because every Crown Rust Control Center is owned by a local family who cares beyond business. Your Crown Rust Control is 100% committed to their product, to you, to their community, which is your community. Protecting you and what matters to you is equally important as protecting your vehicle.
Did you know your vehicle rusts faster in warm weather? Protect your vehicle today. For a special summer offer, find your local family-owned Crown Rust Control Center at crown.com.
Our core values: equality, respect, the pursuit of greatness. Through and through, this is who we are.
Be at the ballpark to experience a proud tradition. Canada Day, Monday, July 1st. The first 15,000 fans will receive a Blue Jays Canadian tuxedo hat giveaway. For tickets, visit BlueJays.com.
Proud to the core. Canadian to the core. Blue Jays to the core.
At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. That's why we introduced in-game betting. Because when the game starts, the action doesn't stop. With in-game betting, you can wager on game props, player props, totals, and the money line. And remember, in-game, you can track your same-day parlay with the option to cash out. Check out in-game betting and find out why. It's never ordinary at Bet365.
Must be 19 years or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has concerns about gambling, visit connexontario.ca.
This is Toronto Blue Jays baseball.
He dives, and he made the catch.
On Sportsnet 590 The Fan and the Sportsnet Radio Network.
Yariel Rodriguez on the rubber. The bottom of the first inning about to start at Fenway Park. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the Timbermark broadcast booth. I'm Ben Schulman alongside Chris LaRue. Rodriguez into the wind. Here's his pitch to Jarren Duran. It's sliced foul off to the left. 0-1. Sixth start of the year for the Cuban righty. An 0-2 record and earned run average just below 6, largely inflated by his rough start 5 days ago. 0-1. Called strike, a fastball at 95 makes it 0-2. Four-seamer, slider, curve, sinker, and splitter for Rodriguez. You had mentioned just before the game you want to see more of his splitter. He did throw it a bit more in his last start, facing a ton of lefties for Cleveland. Now even more for the Red Sox. Just one right-handed hitter in this Boston lineup. Slow wind, 0-2. Fouled back.
And the reason why I say that a split or a changeup is very important against left-handed hitters, because left-handed hitters can see that hump in the curveball in the slider. They can see it easily. And sometimes it's harder to see, but with Yariel, he has a very big hump in those off-speed pitches, so that split finger is going to be very important today.
0-2 split, hit on the ground, back to the mound, fielded by Rodriguez, and zips a ball over to first for his first out of the day, so he uses that off-speed pitch to get Durant.
I tell you what, that split finger right there was nasty. A lot of downward action to it, right down the middle, started in the strike zone and then broke out. But Durant looked very uncomfortable swinging the bat on that split finger.
Then an equally good toss over to first base with the speedy Durant sprinting down the line. Now one out. Here's a guy just as fast, David Hamilton, another left-handed hitter. Rodriguez pitch. Outside, 1-0. Last start for Yariel Rodriguez was his return from the injured list. It was the first time he pitched in the majors since April, and it was not his best. Here's the 1-0. Swing and a miss. Sharp curveball. That one was waved at by Hamilton. In that last start, he went an inning and a third, 2 hits allowed, but gave up 5 runs, 4 earned runs because of the walks. Ended up with 3 walks in that game, back to back to back, before he ended up being pulled. Here's the 1-1. Bounced on the ground softly to second, fielded by Horwitz. He throws over to first, 2 down.
And already, I know it's only been 2 batters, but already you can see the stuff, the location is infinitely better today than it was against Cleveland. Even that curveball, was it a slider or a curveball that he threw on the inside?
That was the curveball, because at 79.
The curveball against Cleveland wasn't very sharp. It was more of a gradual curveball. That one right there was very sharp.
So 2 down. Wilyer Abreu is up. And the pitch. Fastball just outside, 1-0. Abreu, the right fielder, 260 hitter this year. Playing in his 58th game. He's got 15 doubles and 6 homers. (1-0). Just misses at the top of the zone. 2 balls, no strikes.
That was a weird catch from Danny Jansen. I think that if he framed that baseball, they could have stolen a strike there.
It looked like he just bobbled it a little bit. Here's the 2-0. Misses with the curveball upstairs. 3 balls and no strikes. Ten pitches already used by Rodriguez. Here's his 3-0 to Abreu. On the outside edge. 3 balls and 1 strike. Pete Walker leaning on the dugout railing, looking in as Rodriguez winds and delivers. And he misses outside for ball 4. A 2-out walk to keep the inning going.
Well, that's something you certainly don't want to do. Walk a guy with 2 outs. And now Rafael Devers is coming to the plate.
It's been a big series for Devers. Homers in both games. Hit a 2-run shot in game 1. Hit a solo shot yesterday. He's tied for the Red Sox team lead with 16 homers, also hitting .285 and leads Boston with 42 RBIs. Takes the first pitch. It's just outside, 1-0. Rodriguez working from the stretch for the first time today. And the runner on first, Wilyer Abreu, is a threat to run. He's 7 for 8 stealing bases this year. Rodriguez sets high near his chin and delivers. Pitch inside, 2-0. Looks like there's a fair amount of cut on the 4-seam fastball for Rodriguez today. It appears to be moving toward the glove side.
Yeah, if he can locate that thing, it'll be a great pitch, but hasn't really been able to locate that cutter fastball yet.
2-0 is bounce back to the mound. Jumping spear by Rodriguez. Lobs to first a little high, but Devers wasn't running hard. Guerrero steps behind the mound, catches it, and steps on first base to end the inning. So a scoreless frame around a walk, and we will go to the second. 0-0 Blue Jays and Red Sox. You're listening to Blue Jays Baseball, brought to you by your local family-owned Crown Rust Control Center, streaming at sportsnet.ca and the Sportsnet Radio Network.
The beats that move the culture. SiriusXM celebrates Black Music Month with Black Music Forever, a limited edition channel with hip-hop, R&B hits, and breaking music from Black artists. Black Music Forever, throughout the month in the SiriusXM app. SiriusXM.com/BMM for more info.
Fantasy Sports Radio is helping you win your fantasy leagues. Right now on Channel 87.
Aaron Judge drills a 3-run home run.
From in-season fantasy baseball management to helping you prepare for your fantasy football drafts, Fantasy Sports Radio is here to help you dominate.
Don't ever take a player that you don't intend to keep all year. Don't do it. It's terrible management.
Fantasy Sports Radio, your home for fantasy sports. Channel 87 and on the all-new SiriusXM app.
The Busted Open podcast is now available on YouTube. This is Dave LaGreca, host of Busted Open, the #1 pro wrestling show on the planet. You can now watch and listen to the award-winning Busted Open podcast every single day on YouTube. Our best interviews, behind-the-scenes access, and some of our best content from the past. All available right now when you go to youtube.com/@BustedOpenPodcast. Subscribe right now.
Fantasy Sports Radio is helping you win whichever fantasy sport you play. Right now on Channel 87 and on the all-new SiriusXM app.
Radio Network.
It's the second inning presented by Bet365. At Bet365, you can watch thousands of live games, build your own bet, and can even make a bet while the game's still being played. 19 plus, play responsibly. Ontario only. Rain coming down in Boston. George Springer at the plate. Scoreless game. And he takes the first pitch from Cutter Crawford for strike 1. I'm Ben Schulman alongside Chris LaRue. Show Ali, our host and producer, and Austin Mackey, our technical director. 0-1 pitch. At the knees, strike 2. They took the pads off the tarp that keep it from rolling away, so we'll keep you updated with what they do. Fans have exited. A lot of the seats have taken cover. 0-2. Called strike 3. Fastball that was borderline. I think it just caught the outside edge. Springer goes down in 3 pitches.
Yeah, George Springer didn't like that call. Had a quick question for Chad Fairchild behind home plate, but That's a pitcher's pitch. Just caught the outside corner there. Maybe not, but that's a great pitch from Cutter Crawford.
So Springer back in the dugout. Davis Schneider to the plate. Right on right pitch. Outside, ball 1. Schneider didn't get the start yesterday. He did come in as a defensive replacement in the bottom of the 7th inning and struck out in his one at bat. 1-0. Outside, 2-0. I mean, this rain's really coming down. It does feel like, from what we've unfortunately seen a lot this year, it feels like a lot of rain delays this year. This could be one that they try and put a stop to pretty soon. Here's the 2-0. High ball 3. Went to look at the forecast, but the folks at Apple say rain is going to start in 23 minutes, so I'm not so sure that that's relevant. 3-0 pitch to Schneider, called strike. 3-1.
Well, that is certainly incorrect.
Yeah. Schneider wipes the barrel off the inside of his right leg to get the droplets off of it, and Crawford's going to ask for a new baseball. Can see the lights shining off of Cutter Crawford's glove and his arm, off the helmet of Davis Schneider. 1 out, bases empty, no score, top of 2. 3-1 pitch. Called strike, and that one's a break for Crawford. That was a cutter high. That should have been ball 4. Instead, it's full count. Three-two pitch. Way high, ball 4.
There's a few fans behind home plate braving the rain without an umbrella, without any kind of jacket.
Crawford's asking for time in a new baseball again.
But it is certainly coming down.
I mean, it is a warm day in Boston, but a rainy day at that. And the throw from Reese McGuire back to the pitcher sails way over, so they're going to get a third baseball here.
Well, Cutter Crawford didn't even attempt to catch that baseball, did he?
No, but I think in his defense, I'm not sure he could have. McGuire getting back into the crouch, and his former catching mate, Danny Jansen, at the plate. 1 out, runner on first. From the stretch, the pitch. Jansen pops it up, back of home plate. McGuire chasing it to the backstop, and it's into the seats. 1-0. Or pardon me, 0-1. Danny Jansen 1 for 4 yesterday with a double and a run scored. Was his 13th double of the season. He's batting .231 on the year, and he won't be batting any longer in this plate appearance. The Red Sox and the Blue Jays both getting off the field. The grounds crew is mobilizing. And ladies and gentlemen, we are in a delay. No score, Blue Jays and Red Sox, top of the 2nd inning with 1 out. And Chris, we're going to have to take a bit of a break, at least for a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. It feels like this happens, or has happened a lot this season, but it's coming down. I mean, there's nothing really you could do. You have to put the tarp on the field here and put the game in a rain delay.
So they got the tarps on the plate and the mound. They're about to spread it across the infield, and we will send it over to our trusty host and delay quarterback, Show Ali.
Thank you very much, guys. This is what we get. The Blue Jays win for the first time in 8 games, and then the weather gods are like, no more. No more of that. Delay. That's where we are. The grounds crew rolling out the tarp at Fenway Park. You know, I'm looking at the radar for what the greater Boston area looks like, and it does look like a pretty steady stream until like 9:30 thereabouts, and then afterwards it looks pretty clear. The only unfortunate thing when it comes to, again, I am an amateur meteorologist, but the only thing which is really unfortunate is that there is a massive thunderstorm, lightning storm heading right over the entirety of Boston. Honestly, the storm looks like it covers the entire state of Massachusetts, but it's heading over the entire area starting around 11 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see if we get baseball tonight. We'll see. We'll have to see. Just for everyone's information, I was looking at this as Ben and Chris were talking, but The Blue Jays do actually travel back to Boston at the end of August 26th to 29th. They play a 4-game series in Boston. All of them are 7 p.m. Eastern starts, 7:10 p.m. Eastern starts, I should say. So I suppose it is in theory doable. I don't know how often you'd see like a 5-game series, like a 4-game series with one of them being a doubleheader to make it 5, but I don't know. They might also have no choice, right? So that's where we're at right now. Looks like a lot of the crowd at Fenway Park still in their seats, although a good chunk of them are, I suppose, under the concourse, keeping them dry. So we'll see if this does lighten up anytime soon. But for those of you just joining us right this second, the Blue Jays and the Red Sox, top of the second, 1 out, 1 runner on. This game is officially in a delay. I'm Show Ali. I'm at Baseball Control in our downtown Toronto studios. You want to text me because there's no real way of knowing when this delay is going to end. You can certainly do so at 590-590, name and location. That's the People's Text line. As you guys know, it's always open. It's a tough spot for the Blue Jays to be in, if only because they finally snapped the losing streak. I can't tell you, I don't know how you guys felt, but I can't tell you the palpable sense of relief I felt when they actually snapped that streak yesterday. Not because I'm a fan or anything, but just because I think it was probably starting to weigh on them. Now, everything we had heard from the media, from the players and coaches via the media, and, I guess it's kind of a little bit of coach speak, player speak. You never really know how much to actually believe. And this is not just like for the Blue Jays, really for anyone, but is really like how much to take them at their word. And I think that a part of listening to them when they talk to the media is kind of like playing that game, like how much is true, how much is not. But everyone had said, almost to a person, that it hadn't affected them. You know what I mean? Like, they've basically been saying it was like the spirits were still high, the vibes were not bad, and all these different things. So I choose to generally believe them. But at the same time, if you're going to lose 7 games and you're on the verge of losing 8, that's got to be a tough spot to be in. That's the truth, right? So ultimately, I am glad they won, because I think it does make the vibes feel a little bit different when it comes to this Blue Jays squad. One person who did talk about this, though, and he was asked about a variety of things. And if you were listening to the broadcast about 20, 30 minutes ago, I did play a piece of this conversation for you. Chris Bassitt was on with Jeff Blair and Kevin Barker, and they talked a little bit about what it means. And I think it was Blair's first question, but the idea of what it means to go to the ballpark after you snap a losing streak, and like what's it like to keep that going. But they talked about a bunch of other things, pitch-com. They talked a little bit about Yariel Rodriguez, although this game is really delayed. I can't imagine Yariel Rodriguez is going to come back out, which is kind of unfortunate, because I was looking forward to seeing what Y-Rod was going to have after he got beaten up the last time out. But either way, they talked about a variety of things. So let's hear that whole conversation. It wasn't a very long one, but here's Chris Bassitt chatting with Jeff Blair and Kevin Barker earlier this afternoon.
Chris Bassitt joins us, and Blair and Barker. Chris, thanks so much for talking to us today. We trust that you're doing well. Just a question about today, showing up at the park today after that win last night, which came after a tough loss the night before. Does it feel a lot different in the clubhouse today?
I mean, the situation really hasn't changed. Just get business as we have to do today. I mean, get the job done today. It's really no happier or sad than yesterday. It's just got to get it done today.
Chris, I know whenever, for me anyway, when I watch you, it's about the 2 different fastballs, and it's about that slow breaking ball. Whenever you're throwing that slow breaking ball, whenever you're getting loose and you're trying to get the feel of that pitch, how do you know if it's going to be good or not?
I would say more so just like being fundamentally understanding about how my mechanics are for that pitch, just making sure I'm more in line than I would say I need to with my fastball and things like that. And if I feel in sync mechanically without having to think about it, I know it's going to be good that day.
When you're in the bullpen warming up for a game, and knowing that you have that wide repertoire of pitches, how do you decide how many of each pitch you're going to throw when you're warming up? I often wonder that, watching you in the bullpen. Do you have is it just what feels good, or is there a particular plan, a particular sequence?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have me and Pete. We do a lot of homework. I would say even like in the bullpens before the start, and we have a really good understanding of the lineup that we should be facing. We have an idea of kind of who's going to be in the lineup. And then it's just working on pitches that we think we're going to need most for that team. And so that will also carry into like warming up for that day. And I just got to get the certain amount of pitches going that I know I'm going to need to say face whatever lineup it is. And obviously every lineup's a little different. So what pitches I need that day are also going to be a little different.
Chris, how are you and the pitch comp getting along?
It's fine. It's good. It's just obviously them shortening the time is a little tricky, but overall it's fine.
It seems to me that you've actually, watching you on TV and just saying, I think it looks to me like you've kind of turned it into a bit of a weapon, to be honest. For you, in a good way.
It's not a. I mean, it is what it is. It's the nature of the game now with the pitch clock, and obviously with running games and everything else like that. It's very difficult to say control a running game. So-called catch your breath when you have so little time in between pitches now. So kind of me being able to just call my own game, not just shake off or anything like that. We get to buy an extra second or two. But for the guys that really don't call their own game, which I understand a lot of them don't, and I'm not saying everyone should, but the guys that don't, it's harder to control a running game. It's harder to so-called catch your breath because you're constantly kind of always at the mercy of the clock because you're running time down a lot faster by basically not calling your own game.
Yariel's pitching tonight, Chris. What's been your sort of first impressions with him, and what do you think he needs to do to sort of help his game along a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, really electric stuff. I think his fastball usage needs to go up a little bit, and then just get him more in the zone and more comfortable throwing in the zone. But I mean, it's the beauty of the game that we really don't know yet what lineups are trying to do with him. He's so new that hitters are still trying to adjust to what he does, and we're trying to adjust the same way of what he should do to hitters. And it's a learning curve. And so I think he's doing a really good job of it. It's just a matter of getting him in the zone because the more you're in the zone, the more you can kind of figure out, okay, this is my strengths, these are my weaknesses. But I mean, if you're constantly behind in counts, it's harder to figure that out. So I would just say, like I said, more fastballs and be in the zone.
Chris, I understand, obviously you've been around forever, and I would think consistent delivery is a big deal, right? Repeating that delivery over and over and over again and allows you to have the same release point. With Yariel doing the start and stop thing, is it hard, and you mentioned the more fastballs and being able to command that to different quadrants, is that hard to make a mechanical change mentally in season to try and make yourself better?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would say the biggest thing for starting pitching or any pitching in general is mechanics. You have to have sound mechanics. Even if you have different mechanics, they all have to be sound then. But yeah, I mean, pitching is literally the more and more you can repeat a delivery, the better you're going to be. So yeah, it's difficult.
We had Jason Stark and Nino Saris on a couple of days ago, and they were talking about their article on just on run offense in general in baseball and how much technology pitchers are using and all this. And one of the things that that they talked about was how you're seeing more and more pitchers now with 3 fastballs. We're seeing guys who aren't afraid to use multiple fastballs. You, of course, I mean, you throw a lot of pitches. If we could fast forward 2 or 3 years from now, do you think we'll be seeing more pitchers who are comfortable throwing 5, 6, 7 pitches?
Yeah, I think it's kind of never been more. You've never been more in tune to so-called tinker with pitches and try to add a pitch here and there than you are right now, just because there's so many of them. But I mean, it's also kind of goes back to kind of what I was saying about like the league's going to adjust to you, and you have to adjust to the league. That, I mean, if you only are a 2-3 pitch guy, say a 2 pitch guy, and the league can't adjust to you, then I mean that's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean there's only a handful of guys that are like that. So I think you kind of always have to kind of adapt to the league, and usually that is adding, say, a pitch or two.
Chris, I've always wanted to ask you, you talked about the pitch comm, and you talked about, a lot of the times reading bats, right? You have a game plan against a certain guy. You go in and throw it. Looks like he's got a little bit better frisky at bat with that pitch. I wonder what goes through your mind when you see that you have to read a bat, sort of changing game plans when you sort of, I would think, got it planned out on how you want to get a certain guy out.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect scenario that I think I can kind of explain it is basically these back-to-back starts against Boston. Like the first game against Boston, I thought they were a lot of the lefties were basically trying to see my heater deep and try to hit it the opposite way. Obviously, they have a lot of guys like Devers and Duran and things like that have the power to hit homers the other way. But like the second time I faced them, I thought they were a lot more pull-oriented and working more up the middle. So obviously that will kind of change my game plan of kind of how I need to attack or where I need to throw pitches. So, yeah, having the ability to read a swing, it makes you that much more likely to change, say, an approach on a certain guy, even though the approach to start the game was way different. But you got to kind of trust your eyes in that moment.
It's awesome.
Chris, I'm wondering with the team where it is right now, obviously there's a lot of talk. I don't think anybody's happy with the team's record. There's a lot of talk about possible changes. How hard has it been, or how much time goes into keeping a clubhouse together at a time like this?
Yeah, I think we have too many kind of grown-ups in the room to let it kind of get to us. I don't think it's been an issue whatsoever. I think the belief in this team really hasn't wavered in the clubhouse. I think we think we're still, say, a World Series contender. It's just we went through a bad stretch. Like every single team in the big leagues, I don't care who you are, you're going to go through a 14-game streak so you're going to put up a record that does not look good. And then you're going to also go through a 2-week stretch where you're the hottest team in baseball. That's just the reality of our sport, and that's never going to change. I just think how many teams are that good in the big leagues right now. I don't know if there's really ever been a time where we've had this many good teams. And that's a credit to a lot of other organizations. But our belief, our togetherness, our work ethic and things like that, I don't think there's been a single person that's like even once thought about, say, blowing the team up or trading guys. Like we're not even close to thinking like that.
Chris, really good of you to join us today. Thanks so much. Keep it going, man.
Yeah,
really
good luck,
appreciate
Chris.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
That is Chris Bassitt chatting with Jeff Blair and Kevin Barker on Blair and Barker earlier today. I'm Shoai Ali. I'm at Baseball Control in our downtown Toronto studios. And the reason you're listening to Chris Bassitt and you're now listening to me is because their Blue Jays and the Red Sox game, which is at Fenway Park in Boston, is currently in a rain delay. Top of the second inning, 1 out, and the tarp came on the field. People at Fenway running for cover, going under the concourse. It looks like it's actually raining quite heavily right now. And Yariel Rodriguez, so this is what I'm seeing. So as you guys know, we get the kind of stats feeds here at Baseball Control. And, you know, I am somewhat at the mercy of like what the switchers, the camera people in Boston decide to actually like show us essentially. But most of the time it's effectively just a wide shot of the field, right? Like wherever it is. And you see the tarp on the field. You can see if the people are out there warming up in left field or right field, or the grounds crew are pulling up the stakes or putting them down or whatever. Right now, actually, we have a view of the outdoor bullpens at Fenway, because as you guys know, the bullpens are quite close to the seats, right? And Pete Walker and Yariel Rodriguez just now finishing some warm-up tosses. It's quite interesting. And Pete Walker is literally the only people standing in the bullpen right now are Y-Rod and Pete Walker. And they're just throwing baseballs back and forth in the rain as no one is around them. It kind of reminds me of that scene from The Rookie with Dennis Quaid when he's like throwing in the rain and he like throws the ball and then and he's sad because the radar gun shows he threw like a really low amount and then like it shorts out and he actually threw like 98 or whatever it was. That's kind of what it looks like in this. Actually, he just finished up. Okay, so he must have heard me talking about him. He just wrapped up and now they put the tarp on the field, or pardon me, the tarp on the pitcher's mound at the bullpen in Boston. So really now no one is staying hot anymore. Again, 0-0, the Blue Jays and Red Sox stand, top of the second inning, and 1 out. If you want to shoot me a text, 590-590, name and location. We'll read those texts throughout the evening. Still no word on whether or not we will get baseball tonight, as the forecast here doesn't look super promising, I would say. It looks like a small sliver of green, yellow, and red rain. I don't think that's actually what the color of the rain is in Boston, but the radar showing us right now that the Boston area is encumbered, and there's a massive storm en route about 11 Eastern. So we'll see if they try and play it in that very short period of time after 9:30, or which is Eastern time, of course, or if they just bang this game. As I said before, there is a 4-game series at Fenway Park at the end of August. So will they want to do a 5-game series? I'm not sure, but they also might have no choice with the Blue Jays scheduled to play the first of 4 against the Yankees here in Toronto starting tomorrow. So they might not have a whole lot of choice, but we'll keep you up to date on what happens as soon as we find out. Pete Walker and crew just throwing some baseballs to some Red Sox fans, it looks like. Just having a grand old time at Fenway, not playing baseball. But as we continue our rain delay program, we'll continue playing some audio for you here across the network. And we heard from Chris Bassitt earlier. Let's hear from someone who, honestly, one of my favorite guests that Blair has on with him on a regular basis, because they don't only talk about the Blue Jays, they kind of talk about a wide variety of things across baseball. David Samson, who is the host of Nothing Personal with David Samson, he's also on Meadowlark Media with Dan Le Batard and the crew. One of my favorite conversations, one of my favorite guests that you frequently hear on the network, because Samson talks about arbitration and he talks about contracts. He's a former front office executive with the Marlins, so he does know what he's talking about. Let's hear that chat. Here's David Samson on with Blair and Barker.
You are a cold, hard capitalist when it comes to baseball. Let's bring in David Samson, another cold, hard capitalist, former MLB executive, host of Nothing Personal. Oh. David, hey, I got something that's really gonna. You're probably gonna tell me I'm an idiot. So I like leading with that because it's well, yeah.
I'll do it for you. Kevin is for not signing his name in Fenway.
It's crazy,
Park.
right?
Wall.
It's crazy that I have not done that. I'm very disappointed in myself.
Does not see the romance in the game, man.
Maybe not that part of it. That I'm a little upset.
How many career home runs have you hit? 6. Okay, so he didn't, but he doesn't know how many he hit in the minors.
No, yeah, 272 in the minors. Oh yeah, but
okay. Anyhow, so I got
nobody
this.
Cares.
I got this idea. I actually bounced this off Jason Stark a year ago, and he said I was an idiot. But there's an article on ESPN site by Alden Gonzalez about the tragic technology that teams are using now, where it's basically a robot that can mimic a pitcher's delivery, and teams are now using it between innings, and and the pitchers are complaining because, as we all know, offense is out of control in baseball right now. But a lot of the pitchers are complaining about this, and we had Jason on earlier this week, and we were talking about the lack of offense and how pitching technology is so far ahead of hitting. In F1, they put a cap on how much money you can spend on technology. And if you go over that, they whack you with a big gut-busting fine. Am I onto something here with baseball? Everybody's complaining there's too much technology. We're losing this, we're losing that. Why not tell teams, this is how much you can spend on R&D. You can, however you want to use it, go ahead. If you go over it, and we need to account for it, if you go over it, you lose the draft pick, or we're going to whack you with a $1.5 million fine. I'm way off base, aren't I?
Well, it's just that you can't get 23 votes to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's a fine idea, but the reason I'm not going to call you an idiot, I think that's an unfortunate term. But what I would say is that you may not be realistic in terms of how these rule changes could happen. And the reason is that the owners all believe that their money is being well spent and better spent and smarter spent than their competitors, because they all think that they're all idiots, which is funny, and they're not. So each team is smart in its own way. And the commissioner's not going to get involved in that because he can't get the votes to pass it.
Is this a big deal? Like, people talk about it a lot, and lack of offense. Like, is that a big deal? Because I like watching. I enjoy baseball the way it is now. To be honest, would I like to see a few more home runs?
Absolutely.
Maybe, but I kind of like the game the way it is.
Do you know how much video Vladimir Guerrero Sr. studied?
Zero.
Zero. Did he even know where the video room was? Would be my question.
The pitching machines that we had for Vladimir, it was these thump, and it would go in and it would be straight, and you'd set it at 85 or 90 or 95, who cares? And he'd, be in the cage from time to time. Yeah. It's not about that. I think that the reason offense is down, pitchers are using sticky stuff. There's movement, there's velocity in a way that did not exist before, and hitting a baseball is the hardest thing anyway. So pitching is way ahead of the hitting in terms of both not following the rules and in terms of going until you blow out. Mm-hmm. Picture this. If you, Kevin, had the choice where you could hit home runs, but you knew that there was a good chance you were going to blow out because of the way you were swinging, but you got paid for home runs, would you swing that way to get the home runs?
Absolutely.
100%. Mm-hmm. But there is nothing like that for hitting. There is something like that for pitching. They pretend it's launch angle and velocity and all that crap and garbage. No, the cheat code is velocity for pitching that leads to blowouts. There is no cheat code for hitting.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Obviously, you're talking about Diaz and the suspension and how I would think how Major League Baseball is going to correct that. David, I would think you get in their pocket enough, that will go away, right? It's the obvious. If I can see it, you probably got too much on it. It's putting a lot on the umpire's plate to just sort of, say that's we're going to fine you, we're going to kick you out of the game, those kind of things. But as a hitter, David, I can level out my swing still. Like, I understand it's all of these. The pitchers are way better than the hitters have ever been. Are they? Or is it just what you just said? They're not paying them anymore to hit a line drive the other way. They're just not doing it. They can still do it. We've seen them do it. I saw George Springer hit a line drive to right field for a homer last night. He can do it, David. And that's the thing, right? It's a rock and a hard place here, whether it's because I'm assuming it's cheaper if they continue to try and do it this way than to have a bunch of guys who know how to hit, working counts, and you have to pay 7 or 8 guys instead of 1 or 2 guys. So it's cheaper that way, no?
I thought you just said working counts. I was trying to remember if that's still a thing in baseball.
Yeah,
I thought taking a strike when you're down a run in the 9th inning, I must be old-fashioned and crazy, but I used to think that when you needed a base runner 3-0, make them throw a strike after they've thrown 8 straight balls. But what do I know?
Yeah.
So I have a suggestion, and I made this when I was a president of a team, and I couldn't get a vote. But I still make it on Nothing Personal, and now I'm going to make it with you. I want to change the rules of arbitration. I want to take money away from hitters who strike out. I want to add money to hitters who use the gaps, who get extra base hits. I want to take away money from pitchers, more money, even more than they get taken away when they're injured, because I don't want pitchers throwing 100 when they can't. It's all about what pays in arbitration. And right now, power pays in arbitration, saves pay in arbitration, strikeouts for pitchers pay in arbitration. I think we got to change that.
Yeah, I think the first thing I thought of was good luck. Like you mentioned, you didn't get a vote. It sounds simple enough. It's like the sticky stuff. If you find them, you get in their wallet enough, they're going to stop doing it, right? I mean, it's real simple. You can't walk out there like Diaz did and just go, I don't know. Well, yeah, you do. I can see it. It's real simple. It's cut and dry. If you get in their pocket enough, they will stop doing it. It's to your point. I just think it's simpler to have, the Rays to compete, having a couple of guys. I can just remember, and I tell this to Jeff when I was in spring training, you remember the Rays had the cages in the infield, and they were making everybody hit the ball over the cage in the infield? Not a line drive. A ball over the cage. I just never will forget that, because it's easier to teach a guy that way and cheaper to do it that way. So I just don't think there's an easy answer.
And arbitration.
So one of the things.
Go ahead,
David.
David.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was saying one of the things that we focus on is with the sticky stuff. Hitters actually want pitchers to have a little bit of grip because they don't want to get beamed with 100. But when it's too sticky and there's too much sunscreen in the resin and et cetera, that then gives a spin to the ball and movement that hitters aren't used to seeing, and therefore they can't put the bat where they expect the ball to be because the ball is somewhere else because of the movement, because of the sticky stuff, which is why baseball's trying to invent sticky stuff that everyone can use, but they haven't been able to do it yet.
You know, you mentioned something about arbitration. It's something I've always wondered about, and I've talked to people about it, and I kind of get a shrug, and some people, basically, why are you asking that? But there's so much in this. There's so many analytics in this game now. There's so many ways to judge a player. Yet when we go to arbitration, we're using the same stuff they've used since arbitration came in. Who does that benefit? Like, would owners prefer, like you made that point, would owners prefer a more detailed analysis of a hitter's skills or a pitcher's skills, or would players and pitchers prefer it? Like, would it favor one side over the other? Because it does seem it's kind of a little bit of an anachronism, is it not?
So the arbitration process is about comps. And so the only thing that would benefit players or owners is if you change who can be used as comps and how comps can be used. And by that, I mean salaries paid to players previously in the arbitration program with like and similar statistics and experience. And so the league, the team comes up with comps, then the union comes up with comps. Sometimes they come up with the same players because the comps are who the comps are. And then you're deciding how do you judge where the current player should be paid. And my view of arbitration is not that it's bad for the player or bad for the owner. I believe the reason why arbitration, we should get rid of it, is because what is used to decide what is the scale of payment is producing bad baseball. So if we're not going to change the rules, which we've talked about, we can't, why not get rid of the whole process and make everybody a free agent every year? And you'll laugh at me, but that was another suggestion I made. And I got more votes than one, but not quite 23.
Charlie O'Finley. You know the story about Charlie O'Finley when he owned the Oakland Athletics? Every contract's a one-year contract.
Why is that so bad? And I don't want to necessarily, I understand where people viewed him negatively in some respects. But why not young players? Think about the number of players pre-arbitration. Forget this pool, which was just eyewash for young players. Imagine if you had to pay a young player his market value. That would be a huge benefit for a good young player. But it comes at the sacrifice of members of the union who are older players who are being paid for what they did, not what they're doing.
It's hard to have a great season every season, David. I think that's the point that players are trying to make. It's very, very hard. Yeah, good luck with that.
Welcome to football.
That's
you
true.
go.
There you go.
Yeah, you got to earn it, right? The numbers speak for themselves. We'll move on a little bit. Relvis Martinez was suspended for PEDs. And I want to ask about trust from a front office. How does a young kid gain the trust of a front office after going through what a Relvis is going through?
You don't. It's done. And they'll tell you it's not, and they'll tell you everything's fine. You'll read the statement that says it was fertility. He had no idea. I would just like to tell you how much time we spend with players, Dominican players, Venezuelan players, Texan players, and Canadian players. We explain to them, don't take an Advil without telling us. And players listen. The players who don't are players who, like with their parents, they don't want their parents to know what they're doing. I'm just not buying the excuse. And maybe it's because I was in management for so long and I've heard them all, but they're all full of it. These players, their body is how they make their living. So they know exactly what they're taking and they know exactly what the risk is. And when they get caught, they get caught. Most of them don't get caught, which is why they all keep doing it.
Dana Brown came out on MLB Network and the other day and was talking about the Astros and was very bold and said, the Astros had a little bit of a winning streak. We're I mean, we're proceeding as if we want to win the division. We're going to go all in and try to get this thing. There's a lot of pressure here on Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro, obviously, to I don't know, not necessarily send a message to fans, but people want to know what the hell's up, basically. Are you guys going to go for it this year? Are you going to look for a rebuild? Are you going to retool? Whatever you're going to call it. Is there a danger when a front office... I think there's a danger when a front office is too open with fans. I don't know how you feel, but I've always kind of operated under the assumption that transparency is great in everything, but I'm not certain it's great for a front office to be, quote unquote, transparent with people.
We would call it manipulative transparency. So we were only transparent when we wanted to be about things we wanted to be transparent about that would accrue to the benefit of our front office or what we were trying to do, whether it was in a trade or a signing or anything we were doing where we would use the media to try to both give and get information. And the Blue Jays are in a very tough position. People are calling for his job. People are wondering what the Blue Jays should do. And I love your show and I love your fans and I love Toronto. And I'm the one who, along with many who chose Toronto, predicted they'd win the division. I'm sorry to tell you that I got it wrong. And I do not see a path for Toronto's season to turn around the way the Cardinals sort of have and the Astros really have. I just don't see that path in the American League East. I don't see that path with this team. And it is up to the Blue Jays to decide what to do next. And here's the hard part. Rogers could easily not permit smart baseball moves and demand that there are ads made and that they're going to be buyers, if you will. And I get why they'd want to chase because they're so frustrated, but I do not believe it's a smart move for them to buy. I don't think the team has earned the right for that clubhouse to get better. And I think that it will hurt them going forward. But as a corporate owner, I understand the frustration they may feel.
David, does a front office pay attention to chemistry in a clubhouse?
Boy, every winning team we had, there were players who hated each other, including our World Series winning team. They hated each other. Some of them didn't like the manager. Have you ever been on a team where 25 guys all liked each other and hung out and everything was hunky-dory? Have you ever been in an office where you like everyone in your office?
Nope.
Or a classroom where you like all of your classmates? Absolutely. I've never seen that. I mean, you two might not even like each other.
Oh, that's right. Well, that is true. There's that. There it is.
You nailed that.
My point is, it's so talked about all the time.
It is.
And we don't sit in the front office and say, hey, nobody likes Hanley. We're not going to win any games. It never comes up.
Okay, changing it a little bit. Just heard Vladdy come out and say he's in love with the Yankees again.
He did not say that.
Why do you think? Wait,
he didn't say he's in love.
He basically has found out that Rizzo can't play first anymore for the Yankees. He's thinking to himself, boy, that'd be a nice team to go play for. I'm young. I mean, I got somebody protecting me, and that dude can play center, and he's probably going to hit 70 homers this year. I just go out there and be Vladdy. So why do you think all of a sudden he's having this conversation?
I think that finally he listened to his agent. Yeah. And finally he realized that he was moronic to have said what he said before. There's only 30 people who can pay your free agent salary. 30. That's it. And why would you ever disparage one of them? Then you're down to 29. It's idiocy. So finally he said, I spoke to my dad and we've taken care of issues. I've spoken to Vladimir 1,000 times. He would never get in the way of anyone signing with the Yankees. It's total horse hockey. So Vladimir decided he wanted everyone to know. But again, if you're Brian Cashman, I'm not trading a player because he doesn't like being on my team. And I'm not trading for a player because I think he's going to like being on my team. I'm trading players and acquiring players that I think will help us win more games.
Yeah.
David, really good of you to join us today, man. Terrific insight.
Awesome
Thanks as
stuff.
always.
You're
Be
the
well,
best, buddy.
Thanks for not calling me an idiot. I appreciate it. I'll let Parker do that, and I'm sure he will. We still got 45 minutes left.
You love each other.
I know. Take care. Thanks, David.
See you, buddy.
David Samson, host of Nothing Personal, the podcast.
Oh, boy.
We do get along pretty well.
Yeah, we do.
They do. I'm pretty sure they do. That's Jeff Blair and Kevin Barker chatting with David Samson. Like he said, nothing personal with David Samson is their show/podcast, which is where you can find David's work, who, of course, former MLB executive, always has something pretty interesting to say. Show Ali with you at Baseball Control in our downtown Toronto studios. You are currently listening to the Blue Jays rain delay program across the Sportsnet radio network. Blue Jays Red Sox 0s at Fenway Park. Top of the second inning, 1 out. There was a runner on, I believe, but this game currently in a delay. Yariel Rodriguez was just throwing, probably to keep the arm warm, but he and Pete Walker were out there in the Fenway Park bullpen, and now they're done after throwing some more baseballs to the fans hiding in the confines, the dry confines of Fenway Park. Joining me here in studio, well, you just heard Chris Bassitt talk to Blair and Barker. You just heard David Samson talk to Blair and Barker, and Jeff Blair joining me in studio himself. Jeff, how's it going?
Nothing like a little rain delay when the team is in last place to make things exciting.
Mother Nature is not a Blue Jays fan, I guess.
Yeah. She's got some company, doesn't she?
I've always. Do you think they're going to bang this game, Jeff? Because I was looking at the schedule. There is a 4-game series at Fenway Park, Blue Jays Red Sox, at the end of August. So it's like August 26th or something. But would they want to play a 5-game series in theory when there are not a lot of off days at that time of year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Dan has said. I mean, the last thing I heard from Dan was that first of all, they were kind of surprised the rain came in. If you look at the radar, there is a pretty significant line of storms moving through. But what are we in the second inning? I mean, I've got to think they'll try to get at least 5 in. And but how long has the delay been now?
Yeah, the game went into delay around like 7:35. It's
Right.
Eastern. It's 8:08 Eastern time now.
So I would think we should probably know within the next 20 minutes or so. But I mean, my sense is they would probably try to play the game and try to get, maybe get 5 innings in.
Yeah, I did look at the radar, and while I am not a meteorologist, I did see around 11 Eastern. There's a gigantic storm.
Humongous,
Yeah, like covers the whole state type of
pretty
storm.
much.
So
pretty much.
I'm thinking you're probably right. If they don't get the official game in, we're probably in trouble. But that's probably all we're going to get tonight if that is the case. But I do appreciate you sticking around for me. I'll say this. If
I didn't stick around for you, I was here because I was going to be doing Blue Jays talk. But
Well,
I mean,
not-
if it
not-
means a lot, if
but you know
it
what?
makes you feel better, I'll say that I stuck around for you.
But yeah, something tells me, Jeff, you will not be doing Jays talk anymore tonight. So
why not?
I appreciate you getting in this.
It's 8.
Working
It's
out the
8
vocal cords for me.
We've got time.
I'm looking at the lineup, and you gave Barker a hard time yesterday for calling the lineup dumb. Yes, today we got pretty much the exact same lineup, just no Barger. They swapped Schneider in for Barger in left field. Have you come around at all on how you feel about this version of the tinkering going on?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I mean, I don't mean to be an ass about it, but at this point, I mean, I don't really care. I see the logic. Caleb Joseph made an interesting point, I think today, about splitting up Bo and Vladdy. I mean, I want Spencer Horwitz someplace at the top of the order, and I get Kevin's point. Who do you want to have the extra at bat? Basically, do you want Spencer Horwitz having the extra at bat? Right now, I do, because right now he and Vladdy are kind of the two guys, and I guess to a certain degree IKF, but they're kind of the two guys who I feel most comfortable coming up to the plate in a key situation. And, Spencer Horwitz isn't going to hit a ton of home runs. He might have some doubles power, but what he does do is he sees a lot of pitches and he's patient. And I think that if you can, given the way Vladdy is right now, if you can get somebody on ahead of him, I think that's the most important thing you can do if you're John Schneider. And so, honestly, I would... I mean, if it's me, if it was Horwitz, Bichette, Guerrero, I'd be fine with that as well. But I really don't have an issue one way or another. As long as Spencer Horwitz is up, it gets that extra at bat. That's the most important thing to me. But again, we know with John Schneider, Spencer Horwitz has to do 2 hitless games, and he's going to be hitting 8th.
Right.
So, that's just the way it is.
You think it matters who bats cleanup? Like traditionally, I know it does.
I never used to. Yeah, as long as as long as the person hitting cleanup is, and Barker always talks about run producers, and I never really paid all that much attention to run producers, but I've come around to the idea now that you do need somebody who understands how to drive in runs and somebody who is comfortable hitting with men on base, because I think as we've seen this year from the Blue Jays, there are guys in this team that aren't that comfortable hitting with men on base. So I tend to think 3, 4, 5, you can pretty much mix and match. I don't know if there's that big a difference between hitting third and cleaning up.
Right.
I think, to me anyhow, there's sort of more of a, how would you describe it? There's more of a reputational thing, I think, to being the leadoff hitter than it is to being a cleanup hitter.
Okay. You think it matters then? Because I know we had this conversation for a huge chunk of the year, but about Springer batting leadoff and how it seemed like they were somewhat reticent to take him out of that spot. Then he got sick, and they put Schneider in there. And now we've seen like a whole slew of the team hit leadoff in the past couple of weeks. And now Springer, he is what he is at this point of his career. You hope he turns it around, but. This again to that end, if Bo is batting leadoff instead of Spencer Horwitz again, I do feel like it does feel like a little bit of like you're I know it sounds super negative, but like shuffling the deck chairs in the Titanic to a certain extent.
Well, I mean, yeah, they're trying to find some combination that works, right? I mean, that's what John's been doing all year. I think through the first 74 games, he had 70 different combinations. With the exception of Bo Bichette, this has been a healthy team for the most part. Danny Jansen earlier this year.
Right.
But it's not like this team has gone through great wide swaths of the season where they've been without 2 or 3 guys. I think they've probably been healthier than just about every other team in the American League East. So I think that's a sign of, we've talked about this a lot, a poorly constructed roster that the manager is basically, it's like he's trying to get water out of a stone. I mean, he's just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. If it sticks for a couple of days before it slides down the wall, great, go with that. But I at this point, honestly, I show up and see Vladdy leading off, and it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest.
Speaking of Vladdy, Jeff, and we're chatting with Jeff Blair here on the Blue Jays Rain Delay program. Vladdy has been hitting a lot better as of late.
Yep.
10 RBI in his last number of games, 3 home runs in his last 4 games, including one he just hit out of Fenway Park. He's been certainly a lot better. Yesterday, no home runs, but 4 runs for Vladdy, 2 2-run doubles. You believe in that power of his coming back? So I think over the last month we've seen him. I think he took a walk today in the little bit of the game we saw. But is that something you believe in will stay? All players have slumps, but
yeah, I'm not going to believe until I see him hit home runs at the Rogers Center.
Okay.
This is obviously, I think, the best he's been this year, but there's enough of a sample size right now based on what we've seen from him in his career that I think you have to sort of proceed with caution. And I'm not saying that home runs on the road count any less than they do at home. Clearly they don't, but I need to see Vladdy. Like, Vladdy has looked in these 2 days at Fenway Park better than we've seen him look at Rogers Center this year.
Sure.
And just everything about him, the finish, the approach, just everything about Vladdy looks better in these 2 games than we've seen him at the Rogers Center. So I need to see a little more. I need to see a bigger sample size before I'm ready to say, okay, he's turned the corner. But having said that, you have to feel better about him now than you did 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. It's hard not to be, right? Yeah. I've heard you talk to Passon a lot about this, but, when it comes to forecasting what a possible deal could look like, part of me thinks that it should, in theory, be pretty easy to get a deal done. Like, if both parties really wanted it, right, they could get a deal done between Vladdy and the team that keeps him a Blue Jay for long term. But then, then you hear comments that he made the other day, and he's kind of to a certain extent walking back the idea that he would never play for the Yankees, for example. And that might just be like a bit of him hedging his bets to a certain extent. But I wonder if you think we might end up, probably not this year during the season, but if at some point we might actually see Vladdy stay in a Blue Jays uniform long term vis-a-vis a new contract.
I mean, I think it's. My gut tells me, and based on what everybody else, or I should say other people are saying, I think the chances of him signing here are a lot better than Bo signing here.
Yeah.
Which, it surprises me that I feel that way, because when the Jays signed Bo to that 3-year contract to take him through arbitration, I thought, okay, this is a contract you can build the free agent contract on. Theoretically, Bo and his agent and the Jays have agreed on what he is worth for 3 years. So now it seems to me the easy thing to do would be, okay, that's what you're worth for those 3 years. Let's try to forecast what you'll be worth in the next 3 years after your contract ends. And I thought it would provide a pretty sound building block for getting a deal done. But, you know, everything you hear is that I don't think Bo cares whether or not, I mean, if the Jays made him an offer that he liked, he'd sign. But I don't think it's like a driving thing with him at this point, where I think Vladdy all along has kind of given people the impression that he would be more inclined to sign here. I thought the train left the station on this last offseason, but I can see the Jays finishing this season with those two guys. Like, I just can't see them. I can't see them, starting a rebuild, one with this front office and two in the middle of the season. Because I get the argument that if you trade Vladdy now, or if you trade Bo now, you're trading them to a team. You're giving that team theoretically 2 postseasons worth of the player,
right,
which is better than 1 postseason. But for me, it's worthwhile seeing if I can finish out this year with those two, maybe taking a run at signing one of them, and then pivoting off that next off season and trying to put together a deal, because it is the most important deal in franchise history. And I'm not convinced that the return, if they trade him now, they might get a key player plus somebody else's good prospect plus somebody else's mid prospect. I don't mind waiting until the offseason to trade him to get a better player and perhaps, give a bit on the prospect front. So, I mean, I think that's where they'll go. But, it's so hard to read. It's so hard to read this front office. Like, are these the guys that are going to be making this decision this year? Are they going to be around at the end of the year? If they're not, who comes in and makes that decision? Kevin and I talked about this. The guys that come in, do they see the same things that these guys are seeing? I don't know, but it'll be a difficult summer if this team is in last place and they go through the whole summer and we're having this discussion. What are they going to do with Vladdy or Bo? That's just, that's going to be hard to sell. It's going to be really hard to sell. And I think that has to be a factor. This is a TV property. It's a marketing property, not just for the Blue Jays, but for ownership.
Yep.
And those have to be factors.
The NBA draft actually going on right now. Alex Sarr center out of France, is taken number 1 overall by the Hawks. I only bring it up because the MLB draft is pretty soon. And I don't know if you probably have a better knowledge of this than I do, Jeff, but I can't say that there's a lot of examples where teams fire their general manager / front office staff before the draft. That just doesn't happen.
It's almost that's a great point. I mean, teams in general don't fire their general manager in the middle of the season. I think the White Sox did last year.
I think the Mariners did when they brought in Jerry Dipoto, but that was also a while ago, right?
That was a while ago, but you may be right. Certainly the draft has to happen. But I just don't know. It's really hard to tell because everybody's gone to ground with this organization. Usually you have a pretty good sense, I think, of whether or not a team is going to get ready to jettison the general manager.
Yeah.
And, obviously there are people calling for the general manager to be fired. There are more and more people calling for Mark Shapiro to go as well. I mean, Mark's under contract for another year. The stadium renovations are basically done. At some point you'd have to think that the decision is going to be to extend Mark if Mark wants to stay here, or if Mark doesn't want to stay here, do you just do you clean house right now and bring someone else in to replace Mark and then let him hire the general manager?
Yeah, that's a tough conundrum because
It is.
you also probably can't interview. Like, let's say it's not James Click and they want to make a change. You can't interview 95% of people until the season's over.
Theoretically you can, providing you're not going to interview someone for a lateral move, but you can interview someone
for a promotion.
But I mean, I'll say this. I mean, in defense of Mark, the stadium and the revenue streams this team has. I mean, they are better than they've been. They were better than when he took over. Let's be honest. They've done a pretty good job with the stadium. I think the infrastructure's in place here. They've spent a lot of money in infrastructure, and quite frankly, I think Mark has the confidence of ownership, and that's not something to be sneered at.
Jeff, before I let you go and off into the not rainy night, I guess I'm not sure if it's raining here in Toronto, but let's hope it's not.
I don't think it is.
I do want to ask you about something completely unrelated to baseball. Canada wins 1-0 at Copa America over Peru.
Yep.
And I actually had seen that with the Argentina win over Chile last night, it means that Canada can advance to the quarters with a draw against Chile on Saturday, which is pretty cool. I know you're far more well versed in soccer than most people. Do you think is it too much of a hyperbole to say that last night's win might be one of the biggest win for the men's program ever? Maybe.
No, listen. I think anytime you can beat a South American team, it's huge. And I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you're played off the pitch and you still win the match. I like the fact that I thought Canada showed a good balance yesterday of aggressiveness and also discipline. I really like what I've seen so far from Jesse Marsh. I like some of the moves he's making. I like some of the new blood he's bringing in. I will be fascinated to see if he sticks to his words and lets Jacob Schaffelberg start. I would love to see that. Although, you do see in soccer there are guys who are better players off the bench than as starters. I just get the sense. There are times where they make you bang your head against the wall because they're so awful in the other team's third, and it's just like there are times where you look up and they've got the ball and they don't know what to do with it, and that still concerns me. I still think sometimes there's too much of this. Oh my God, I got the ball. Where's Alfonso? Where's Jonathan? And I guess that's why I like Schaffelberg, because he gives you the impression that he is quite comfortable taking somebody on one-on-one. And I think that surprises some teams. I think clearly last night against Peru, they had no answer for what he was doing. So yeah, I think it's given the fact that the World Cup is just around the corner. I'm at the point right now where I want to see Canada be competitive and score the odd goal. And that to me will be enough of an advance that when you do get to the World Cup, maybe you can parlay a little bit of the home field advantage. But there's still, I'm still not sold on their back line. And I like Kone, but I thought he was a little surprising against Peru.
Agreed.
I expected more from him. And my other concern is I just don't know. And I love the guy. I love watching him play, and he's hugely important. But honestly, I just don't know how much longer Stefan Eustáquio can be getting that much playing time. But all in all, yeah. Listen, I know there are some people in social media where they're played off the pitch, yada yada, et cetera, et cetera. It's Peru. They've gone to World Cups. It's a South American country. I think Canada did pretty well to keep their cool, to play with a little bit of an edge. And to me, it's always a good sign when you get the opposing coach complaining about you in the post-match news conference.
That's pretty great, actually.
That's good. That to me is always good. There's never anything wrong with the opposing coach basically saying your team was too rough in his team. That's great. I want to hear more of that. I want to hear more complaining about the Canadians being too rough and maybe practicing the dark arts a little too much.
Canada will take on Chile on Saturday. I have the chance to advance to the quarters.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Always fun when I get to catch up with you, Jeff. Thanks for doing this, man.
Thank you, Show. Take care.
That is Jeff Blair, host of Blair and Barker. Of course, host of Jays Talk. You're listening to the Blue Jays rain delay program here on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Show Ali with you. It is really coming down at Fenway Park right now. It is absolutely pouring. The tarp is still on the field, and there's not a soul to be seen in the outfield district there at Fenway. So we will not necessarily be getting Blue Jays baseball anytime soon. 0-0 Blue Jays Red Sox, where it stands, top of the second inning with one out. There was a runner on, but like I said, as we stand right now, there is no update for when we will get a resumption of this game. Let's take a very quick break. And when we come back, we will go back to the Town Scoreboard, check out some scores from around Major League Baseball, because other games are still happening. Some activity outside of Major League Baseball, including the NBA Draft. I did say that Alexander Sarr, the center out of France, was taken number 1 overall by the Atlanta Hawks. We'll check out some of the other picks as the Spurs are making their 4th overall pick. Should have been the Raptors pick, just saying. We'll check that out on the other side. You're listening to the Blue Jays Rain Delay program on the Sportsnet Radio Network.
Sportsnet.ca is your source for everything Blue Jays. Stay up to date with news, big reads, and insights from baseball's best insiders. Catch all the highlights.
The Blue Jays walk it off.
Go deeper inside the game with Sportsnet.ca, home of the Blue Jays.
Do you have questions about kids and drugs? Drug Free Kids is here to help. Looking to have the talk with your teens about drugs, and you're wondering how to do so and what to say? Get answers and the support you need at drugfreekidscanada.org.
Slowed down, held back, inhibited. What you get out depends on what you put in. Rejuvenate your engine's performance with new and improved Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. It removes up to 100% of performance-robbing engine deposits. Fuel up with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline at your nearest Shell today. With continuous use of gasoline direct injection engine fuel injectors.
Sick of ground grumbling nights and bug bonanzas? Beach? It's time for a reality check. An all-inclusive beach vacay with Sunwing Vacations can actually be cheaper than camping when you add it all up. Why wrestle with tents when you can tango with tranquility? Say no to inferior, more expensive vacays and yes to Cuba under $9.99. Book with your local travel agent or
This is the sound of medicine. When you stay at a Ronald McDonald house close to your sick child, family is medicine. And right now, it's helping Ryan battle leukemia. We need your help to keep families together. Please donate today at rmhc.ca.
This is Toronto Blue Jays baseball.
Vladdy with a huge stretch for the double play.
On Sportsnet 590 The Fan and the Sportsnet Radio Network.
All right, welcome back to the Blue Jays Rain Delay program. Show Ali with you on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Coming down really hard at Fenway Park. Like, it is absolutely, like, sheets of rain are flooding Fenway Park right now. So something tells me this is not going to be letting up anytime soon. Then again, I don't know. Maybe Mother Nature has other plans. We will see. But still right now, 0-0, Blue Jays, Red Sox, top of the second inning, 1 out, 1 runner on. But right now we are in a delay. Welcome back to Baseball Control. Show Ali with you here at the downtown Toronto studios, One Mount Pleasant Road. Let's check out the Town Scoreboard, brought to you by St. Louis Bar and Grill. Devilishly good since Toronto first raised a trophy in 1992. Join them for wings, ribs, beer, cocktails, and catch every play. Your local St. Louis Bar and Grill. Download the app or visit stlouiswings.com for more details. Always devilishly good. I should make a slight correction. It's actually like a pretty big correction to the NBA drafts we were discussing before the break. The Atlanta Hawks actually selected Zachary Risacher with the first pick in the NBA draft. He's a winger who played with J.L. Bourg in the French league last season. So he was the top target. He was pretty much the top guy atop most draft boards pretty much all offseason. But he was the actual selection by the Atlanta Hawks. Alexander Sarr was taken second by the Washington Wizards. Reed Sheppard was taken third by the Rockets, and the Spurs just picked Stephon Castle at number 4, and that's where we sit right now. Number 5, the Detroit Pistons are on the clock. The Raptors, in case you're curious, are going to pick 19th tonight. So, I don't know. That seems like it'll probably happen in about an hour's time. I'm going to guess maybe Zach Edey, Canadian, will still be there. We'll have to see. You know what? If we are still in a rain delay by then, and good God, I hope we're not. But if we are, we'll try and get you that audio live. We'll all find out who the Raptors pick together. As is usually the case, with the NBA draft comes a slew of news items as well, including our old pal OG Anunoby reportedly signing a 5-year, $212.5 million deal to return to the New York Knicks. So that'll keep him out of free agency in July. The Knicks also making a huge trade last night. If you missed it, they acquired forward Mikal Bridges from the Nets. Going back to Brooklyn is a lot. Bojan Bogdanovic, 4 unprotected first-rounders, another protected first-rounder via the Bucks, and an unprotected pick swap. Some extension news from Brooklyn as well. Nick Claxton reportedly will sign a 4-year, $100 million deal. He'll return to the Nets, and elsewhere, the Wizards trading forward Denny Avila to the Trailblazers, going back as Malcolm Brogdon, the 14th pick in tonight's draft. Wizards also getting a 2029 first-rounder and 2 second-round picks as well. So it's a very quick check of the St. Louis Bar and Grill out of Town Scoreboard. And joining me here in studio, usually after this point, I say, let's go back to Ben Schulman and Chris LaRue. But joining me here in studio is Chris LaRue. How are you, Chris?
It's raining a lot.
It's raining a lot.
You can't even see the screen anymore because the rain is covering the camera.
Yeah, you know how people say like the floodgates have opened or sheets are coming down? Like usually that's kind of like an exaggeration. That is actually what's happening at Fenway.
I always enjoy your rain delay shows though.
No one enjoys this.
I don't enjoy sitting here, but I enjoy your rain delay shows.
Well, I appreciate you coming in here with me to pass the time. I was looking forward to seeing what we were going to get from Y-Rod tonight. Yariel Rodriguez, I guess was it in Cleveland? He only went 1 1/3, and he really got banged around. Actually, yeah, it must have been because that was that inning where combined Y-Rod and Francis threw like a combined 70 pitches. And you and Eric, I think, talked for like 40 minutes, essentially, I think in like the bottom of the 3rd inning at Progressive Field. But I was looking forward to seeing what he has tonight because we have seen, like in his relatively short tenure on the active roster, we've seen him have some pretty good stuff. But boy, he had some real trouble locating. Maybe you can just chalk it up to... Maybe you can just chalk it up to like you came off the IL, that first start after the IL hadn't started in a while. Like, can you say that for pitchers, or is unexcusable from Y-Rod?
Well, you look at his minor league rehab outings, and they were pretty good. I think he had a 1.5 ERA over his rehab outings.
Yeah,
and I always hear that AAA is very similar to the big leagues, or the biggest jump is AA to AAA, or that's not true. The biggest jump is AAA to the big leagues. Any guy that's made that jump will tell you.
Right.
So you can look at his rehab outings and you can look at the numbers and you can say, oh, he was ready. He was ready, but the heart rate was up. I mean, there was a big crowd in Cleveland. You're facing a good Cleveland team. So I guess you could chalk it up to that. But at the same time, I don't think being nervous should take away from your fastball command.
Okay.
It might take away, it might speed you up a little bit. It might make you really choke off the breaking ball, or maybe choke the change up a little bit, but it shouldn't take away from your fastball command. I think if you can command your fastball, it's something that you always have in your back pocket. Whether you're nervous, whether your heart rate is sped up, or whether you're in the minor leagues, whether you're in the big leagues, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So that's the thing that I saw with him, is he was really erratic with that fastball, all spraying it all over the place. Whether he was throwing strikes or not, that didn't matter to me. They were high strikes, low strikes, arm side strikes, balls that were nowhere near the strike zone. So if he's going to be a big league pitcher, a successful big league pitcher, which obviously he still can be, he's only thrown 18 big league innings.
Sure.
He's going to have to figure that out. And he has the stuff. He has the curveball. He has the slider. He threw one good split finger today that was pretty awesome. I mean, it was nasty.
Of his 10 pitches or 14 pitches?
I think he threw 15 pitches, 8 strikes, which isn't great. But the split finger, as soon as he threw that, and if you can throw one good split finger, it's in there, right? It's not completely lucky that you threw that pitch. It's in there somewhere if you can throw a good one. So he has a good repertoire, but he has to throw his fastball for strikes. He has to command the fastball, not just throw strikes, because we've seen Yusei Kikuchi this year a lot throw strikes, but he gets hit around, right? You have to throw good strikes. You have to throw quality strikes. And I don't know if Yariel's there yet. It's coming, hopefully, but he's not there yet.
How do you know whether or not someone, and maybe it's impossible to answer this question until we've seen more from him, because he's like you said, 18 big league innings, not a lot, but how do you know whether or not Yariel Rodriguez's future is as a starter? Because I think there is enough we've seen him for him to be a major leaguer, but I mean, he was given a 5-year deal, and I think generally speaking, you would think that's going to be for a starter. But at the same time, there is always a world in which they figure out another option for the fifth rotation spot, whether it's this year or next year, and Yariel Rodriguez is still on the team, but as a relatively high leverage reliever.
I mean, I think the biggest thing when I'm thinking of a quality starter, first of all, I just talked about this for 5 minutes, but you have to command your fastball. That's number one.
Yeah.
There's probably 1 or 2 guys in the big leagues that don't really have command of their fastball that have success. Luis Gil is one of them. We saw him earlier on in the season, and I think he's pitching tonight, so we're not going to see him.
I think he got hammered too tonight.
Yeah, so he's one of the few guys in the big leagues that throws that fastball, kind of sprays it all over the strike zone effectively. And that's rare. It's rare to be effectively wild. But Luis Gil throws upper 90s, 100 miles an hour. Yariel Rodriguez is throwing 94, 95 miles an hour. That's a huge difference. So as a big league starter, you have to command your fastball. That's number one. But the second biggest thing for me isn't the curveball, isn't the slider. It's something that looks like a fastball that isn't. So that's a split finger, that's a changeup. You have to have that. You have to have something that either runs arm side or just drops like a split finger. And that's why I say that first of all, it's pouring in Boston right now. and that's why I say that the split finger is such an important pitch for him. There are 8 lefties in that Boston lineup tonight. If he was just throwing the fastball, the curveball, and the slider, everything was going into lefties. That's a tough outing, a really tough outing. You have to have something that looks like a fastball that you can throw in a 2-1 count and a 2-0 count when you're behind.
Right.
The changeup when you're behind in the count is the best pitch in baseball because that hitter is geared up for the fastball. They're way out in front, and you can just get an easy ground ball, an easy pop-up. I would rather get a ground ball than a swing and a miss.
Sure.
But if you're behind in the count 2-1, you can just throw that easy changeup right down the middle that looks like a fastball, the good arm speed, a little bit of fade to it, that'll make you a big league starter. Command the fastball, have that changeup or even that split finger, and then you can call yourself a starter. But until Yariel shows me the command of the fastball, shows me that he has that split finger that he can throw behind in the count, I don't know. Jury's kind of out. That's kind of how I think of him.
That is Chris LaRue. I'm Show Ali. You're listening to the Blue Jays rain delay program here on the Sportsnet Radio Network, where we are not broadcasting Blue Jays baseball right this second because there is a rain delay going on at Fenway Park in Boston. 0-0. Blue Jays and Red Sox sit top of the second inning. 1 out, 1 on. But that is where we stand right now. A couple of the Red Sox or some of their coaches are currently sitting in the Red Sox bullpen area. The Blue Jays bullpen currently quite empty, I would say as well. Pretty much no players on the field outside of the Red Sox and the Boston bullpen. I saw this earlier, Chris. I thought this was pretty interesting. So Jim Bowden, who a former MLB executive, and he's on he writes for The Athletic, and he goes on with Blair and Barker like pretty often, right? We hear him on the station across the network pretty often. I would say every couple of weeks. So he had trade deadline predictions, okay, and I'm wondering if you are going to be surprised by any of the names on this list. Okay, I'm going to and they're names everyone has heard of, right? They're names we've talked about all year, and this is actually just for starting pitchers. But Garrett Crochet is, because this is actually, I guess to explain it, the context is that he actually pulled a variety of major league executives, GMs, and scouts from, I guess, his contacts across the sport. And so in order, this is the likelihood, according to a variety of people in baseball, and this is the likelihood of these guys in order of getting traded. Okay, so Garrett Crochet is number one by far. Everyone thinks Garrett Crochet is getting traded. He's been pretty great this year. We saw him carve up the Blue Jays earlier this season.
How much control does he have left?
He is under control through the 2026 season.
So a decent amount of control.
Yeah, and so you got to think that's going to, if the White Sox, it's going to fetch you a pretty penny, right? And they need it, and they've already started the rebuild. Like they're one of those teams that probably don't actually need to trade like Luis Robert, for example, because he's still pretty young, and they already have a lot of prospects kind of sitting around. But would be surprised if they didn't trade Garrett Crochet. The Tigers, Jack Flaherty. The Mets, Luis Severino. They're 2 and 3, and number 4 is Zach Eflin, followed by number 5 is Yusei Kikuchi. Yusei Kikuchi is, according to a variety of scouts and GMs, is the 5th likeliest starting pitcher to be traded this season. Does that surprise you?
When was this poll taken?
Like this thing was published today, actually. This was published this morning.
So the poll was taken over the last the last 7 days.
Yeah, in the worst stretch of the Blue Jays season.
So I think if you probably took the poll previous to those 7 games, I think he would have been a little bit lower than that. I'm only assuming just because the Blue Jays maybe thought that they had a chance, they would have been buyers at the deadline, not extreme buyers, but buyers nonetheless. They would have made a move to continue on and perhaps get one of the wild card spots. But I could see how that poll changed a little bit over the last 7 days. Does it surprise me? No. I mean, I think you say outside of Vlad and maybe Bo, and I would have thought maybe Jordan Romano, but he's a free agent after the season. Well, I guess Yusei is too.
Yeah, Yusei, yeah. Jimmy Garcia is as well.
You're not going to get that much for him. That's the only thing that I worry about. So why not play this thing out until the end of the season? If I was GM, and obviously I'm not, but if I was, why would I flip Yusei for a 25th best prospect or a 15th best prospect that has a low chance of being any kind of impact?
Let me ask you this then. Is it not better? I'm just playing devil's advocate, but is it not better to get like a team's 15th best prospect than Kikuchi walking in theory for nothing?
I know, but my point is, why don't you play this thing out and see if you can get that last? This is prior to the last 7 days, right? When the Jays were only 3.5 or 4.5 or 2.5 or whatever they were. I think now maybe it's slightly different where the chances of the Blue Jays, I think that like the realistic chances right now are like 4% is what I read.
Yeah, like on Fangraphs, I think that's where it's at prior to last night's game, but maybe, I mean, even after the win, it probably has jumped up to what, like 5% maybe?
It's low, but anything can happen. Baseball's a weird sport.
Sure.
The Jays can go on a winning streak and win 6, 7, 8 in a row. It's not likely with the Yankees coming into town, but maybe after that, then the Astros come into town and then they go to Seattle. So it's highly unlikely either way. But I think that when you look at the season and with that third wild card spot, it's so important to remember that anything can happen. It's not like you're trying to win the division. That's obviously not going to happen.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But my point is, play this thing out, see what happens, try to get to the playoffs. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. At least you tried to make it to the playoffs. a 15th best prospect, and I don't even think you would get that for Yusei Kikuchi. You might get a 20th best prospect, a guy that probably isn't going to do anything for you, right? How many 20th best prospects have we seen make it to AA and then fizzle out and never hear from them again?
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Probably more often than if they even make the big leagues. So that's the only thing I consider when I'm thinking about getting rid of a guy, especially a guy like Yusei Kikuchi who has so much upside. Or why don't you just try to sign him?
Sure, yeah.
Why don't you try to sign him to a 2-year deal and then try to make the playoffs next year? Because next year you still have Bo, and probably a better version of Bo than this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would imagine.
It's kind of hard not to be. I mean, come on.
I would imagine you still have Vlad. And if things go sideways next year, then you can get rid of Vlad, you can get rid of Bo, you can get rid of Yusei, you can get rid of Kevin. You can really blow it up.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing I think about. And I know a lot of fans probably say, oh, just get rid of him, get rid of everybody, get some prospects. But prospects aren't going to really get you to the promised land. I've seen probably 90% of prospects become nothing, literally nothing. Yeah. Like they're working at some odd job right now that has nothing to do with baseball.
The car salesman, yeah.
Well, we're not going to degrade jobs right now.
No, by no means.
But they're not working in baseball.
No,
they never made the big leagues. Yeah. They never made any money in baseball, but they were these big top prospects. I played with guys who are first, second, third, fourth, fifth best prospects, and they never made the big leagues.
Yeah, that's tough.
Right? So that's I've the only reason why I'm being the devil's advocate right now is because I've seen this quote unquote prospect thing not work out.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because the NBA draft's on right now, and the NFL draft happened already this season. The NHL draft, watch it on Sportsnet, will be this weekend. The MLB draft coming pretty soon as well, right? That's later this summer. First of all, I've always thought it's like kind of bizarre that the Major League draft is like in the smack dab middle of the season. Like all of those other drafts, which are like pretty big events. Like this is the first time in NBA, I think NBA history. I shouldn't say that because I actually don't know, going back like decades and decades. But for the first time in a long time, that the NBA draft is over 2 nights, right? It's just 2 rounds, but they're doing both rounds on different days. And, it's because they want to make more of a spectacle of it. And MLB draft, and I know it's and partly because of the length. It's like just crazy long. I know they've cut it down recently, but it's still pretty long. It's kind of in the middle of the season, which I've always thought is kind of funny. But the other part of it is, I saw some people on the text line and people call in and talk about this and other shows and so on, talking about, if the Blue Jays keep losing, it's a good thing, but also it's good because the Blue Jays would have a high draft pick. And in theory, that is true because, I suppose you'd rather have a high draft pick. If you're not playing well, you'd rather have the high draft pick than not have the high draft pick and also not play well. So I do understand that. Having said that, while it's true you can certainly get an Adley Rutschman or a Bryce Harper or one of these can't miss prospects, but to your point about prospects not working out, I feel like baseball is a sport where that happens way, way, way more than these other sports, right? Again, do I know that these guys picked in the top 5, 6 picks are all going to be stars in the NBA? I don't know that, right? And do I know that the quarterbacks taken in the top 4 for the NFL are all going to be stars? I don't know, but generally speaking, we at least get the chance to see them play more or less right away. If you're a top 10 pick in literally any other sport, you're probably playing pretty soon. Hockey is kind of in that middle ground where sometimes the prospects percolate in the minors for a little while, but even they play pretty soon. I think that's a key aspect of when we discuss the Blue Jays should tear it down. They should retool or whatever. It's just that the more often than not, yes, you get rebuilds like the Orioles or I don't know, the Astros when they did it 10 to 15 years ago. But generally speaking, look at the Tigers. The Tigers are still in theory rebuilding. The Royals, for example, are only now at the rebuild stage or are at the competitive part of their rebuild stage. And I would go out on a limb and say it's largely because they hit on a diamond in Bobby Witt Jr. If they didn't have Bobby Witt Jr., would they be in this space? Probably not. Yeah. I just think that's the danger with rebuilding. I do think it's probably warranted in this particular case, but boy, tearing it down to the studs and seeing what you can get for Vladdy and for Bo and stuff, I don't know. It's a tough spot to exist in because you don't know if it's going to work out.
So I'll put things in perspective right now. 2005 was my draft year.
Okay.
And I was drafted by the Florida Marlins. I was a 7th round pick.
It's pretty high considering in 2005, like there were like 40 rounds or whatever.
Well, no, I got drafted with Tommy John too.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So I should have been a lot higher, but I got whatever. I don't want to rehash that.
That's fair.
Open that can of worms. But anyways, so Florida had 5 first-round picks that season.
Okay.
And you know how many were even remotely decent, serviceable big leaguers?
Was Stanton one of those guys? No, he was drafted before you.
He was
right?
2007.
Yeah. Oh, after you. Okay.
Yeah. Are you going to guess?
Oh, okay. Of those 5?
Of those 5, how many were even remotely serviceable?
I'm going to say 2.
5 first-rounders.
Okay, I'm going to say 2 of those 5.
1.
Okay.
Chris Volstad.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's it. He's the only guy that out of those 5 first-round picks became anything.
Yeah.
3 of the 5 maybe had a couple weeks in the big leagues,
Sure.
a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And you think that the Marlins, before that draft, all their fans, all their hundreds of fans, they were thinking, oh, man, this is going to be it. We're going to win another World Series with these 5 draft picks, with these 5 first-rounders. And then you get Chris Volstad, who was just a 4th or 5th starter.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't really – I mean, baseball is crazy like that.
Yeah,
like,
true.
Imagine in the NBA draft if a team had 5 first-rounders.
Oh, my God.
Right? Like, it would change their organization forever.
Yeah, forever, actually.
Yeah. So
that is effectively, not in the same year, but that's effectively how the Boston Celtics built a team that just won the NBA title.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And that was already viewed as like being like completely Looney Tunes when the Nets traded them all those picks like however many years ago. That's nuts.
So that's why I say that getting draft picks and I know that the drafts are important. I understand that. You have to draft to be successful, but just because you have a high draft or a high draft pick or a lot of picks in the top 5 rounds doesn't mean that you'll be drafting good players. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Like I would say in most sports, it's a crapshoot at the best of times. And in baseball, and maybe as like time has gone on, because this is something, it's funny, I feel like you and I could probably chronicle all our rain delay chats, because we talked about this the last rain delay, but like the simple idea of how like when you were younger and you were coming into your draft year, it was just like if a guy could throw like 98 miles an hour, that was like amazing, right?
Oh, he was a first overall pick.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
First overall pick.
And now, I'm not saying everyone does, but like the way you evaluate, and this is different from hitters as well, but the way you evaluate pitchers has largely changed, right? And certainly speed is a killer, and you want the high velo numbers on the radar gun and so on. But I mean, it's funny how things have changed, and now. And now maybe analytics, and I know analytics and like khakis and so on have become like kind of like a pejorative. Like people don't like that kind of thing. But those have allowed people to make even more of the like really like minute like minutia type of decisions. And I feel like that can be a boon for things like drafting, but it can also kind of hurt you sometimes, because sometimes you maybe you make the wrong thing because of a guy's FIP or BABIP or something, and you're out of luck essentially.
Yeah, I don't pretend to understand all those analytics and those super, super obscure analytical ways.
It's tough. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's too many, especially for me, because I grew up in the more of the older school era of baseball. Right. I was kind of in between, where it was like old school and then the new analytical way of thinking. But I was at a where was I? I think it was UCLA versus USC. Last season.
Okay.
And I was with one of my good friends is a baseball agent. And we were watching this pitcher, I forget his name, and he was like 92 to 95. And I looked at him and I said, "Man, this guy's nasty. He's going to be like a top 2 round pick." And he looks at me and he goes, "This guy's not getting drafted." Oof. And I was like, "Are you kidding me? This guy's not getting drafted?" In 2005, the year I got drafted, this guy would have been a top 2 round pick, sure, no questions asked.
Yeah.
But then he started talking about the spin rate, the FIP, the clip. I don't even know what these guys are talking about. And I kind of just like my like eyes glazed over when he was talking. But that's what guys are looking at now. And I don't, and this is just my point of view, obviously, because I'm older school, but I don't think a lot of that stuff really matters. And that's why you get a lot of the guys that are underperforming and never really being anything special at the big league level.
Yeah, it's I find the draft process fascinating for all sports, really, because everyone makes their their decision-making process is different for certainly like within the sport. Every team's like within Major League Baseball do it differently, but just even across sports, like you see teams that are very analytically driven in other sports as well that take a different tack of making their decisions. And I find that stuff really fascinating. Chris, look, I appreciate you joining me. I'm going to let you rest the pipes. Like, in case we get a ball game today, someone texted in, I'm not joking, someone texted this in, like when we first started talking, they said, do you have the weather network on your cell? This game is not happening. Which is kind of funny. This person is probably right. The radar does not look particularly promising. There are some figures, I think like a player or maybe someone out of the bullpen running across the field, as I just see lightning strike in the distance beyond the green monsters. So
I think that means that it's getting banged.
I think so too.
Those guys are running out to the bullpen to grab their stuff.
To get their stuff. That's exactly what that looks like to me. It looks like they're getting ready to leave.
But doesn't this rain delay make you want to buy a pair of LL Beans? That is ingenious.
It's funny. I had said the same thing when there was a rain delay in Chicago when they were at a guaranteed rate field to play the White Sox, and their tarp ad, because this is like, for those of you who cannot see this, it's like it says LL Bean keeping our socks SOX dry with a giant boot on the tarp. The White Sox one was like an X like a Comcast Xfinity logo, and all I could think of was, boy, I really want to buy some subscription to Comcast right now. Yeah. But okay, in case we do get a baseball game, I'll let you rest, and I appreciate you doing this, man. Once again.
Yeah, man, anytime. Hopefully we don't have to do this many more times this year, but it's always good to see your face, though.
Thanks, man. That is you too. That is Chris LaRue, who is a Blue Jays rain delay expert at this point, joining me here in studio. Show Alley with you at Baseball Control. And like Chris said, it does kind of look like they have vacated the Red Sox bullpen. The other part of this is that right before Chris came in here, there was a close-up shot of the bullpen, and they were all hanging out in there. Like, they were all just relaxing in the bullpen. So I kind of wonder if they were like, all right, this game, it's not going to stop raining anytime soon. Maybe we'll actually go hang out in the clubhouse. But that's where we're at. So still no word on whether or not there is a rain delay reprieve, let's say, in Boston. 0-0 Blue Jays and Red Sox stand right now, top of the second inning. And that's where we are. If we do get, again, we are at let's see, a quick check of the Town Scoreboard brought to you by St. Louis Bar and Grill. We're at the 8th overall pick for the NBA draft. The Spurs about to make their 8th pick in their second pick, 8th overall in the first round. So if we're still in a rain delay, it kind of looks like we will be when the Raptors make their pick at the 19th overall selection. Maybe we'll get you some live coverage, courtesy of Sportsnet. Joining me here in studio to continue our rain delay coverage is Ben Schulman. What's up, Ben?
Hey, not much, clearly, evidently. So just hanging out. How about you?
I could be better. I could be listening to you. And
if you're
Chris.
here at the 19th overall pick, by the way, and it's still in a delay, I'll buy you. I already actually owe you 3 McDonald's for calling a certain broadcaster bald last year that I haven't picked up on yet. So I'll get you some more. Rob Dillingham one. Nice. I'll get you some more McDonald's on top of that.
I honestly, part of me wants to say, like, there's no way we're going to get the Raptors pick live on the air. But on the other hand, like, we did have a 3.5-hour rain delay earlier this season. So, you know what? Nothing surprises me anymore.
Yeah, that one was worse circumstances, I think. The Blue Jays and Red Sox will play each other 7 more times this year after this game. So I don't think we'd get to that point.
Well, let me ask you this then. So a 4-game series is the next time the Blue Jays are in Boston, right? They're going to take on the Red Sox at Fenway at the end of August. And I was just looking at the schedule earlier, Ben, but like it comes at a time where there are not a lot of off days. Like, I think there's the August the 15th is when there's an off day, and then they play like 2 straight weeks of games. And that leads all the way, like the next off day after August the 15th is September the 2nd. So there are not a lot of off days in there. Like, would they really want to add, despite the fact that they could easily get this in at Fenway again later in the season, would they really want to add like another game in a 4-game series? Like, I guess they've had 5-game series before, but it just seems like a pretty taxing thing, really, for both teams, not just the Blue Jays.
Well, I think they could do that, or they find, like you said, an off day where they're in the area. I mean, they have to do one or the other, really. If this game isn't going to end looks like you have news coming down.
I do have a. So the only reason I have my index fingers in the air is Pete Abraham, who covers the Red Sox for the Boston Globe. I follow Pete on Twitter. Pete just says, I'm going to read you his tweet verbatim. Okay. Game has been banged. Announcement coming shortly. So there you go. So that means we don't have any Blue Jays baseball tonight if Pete is to be believed, but he usually is. I followed him for a long time. So I'm going to guess that means we don't have any Blue Jays baseball. You want to chat for like 5 minutes before I let you go?
Yeah, why not?
You're going to have to put a bow on
defend analytics and selling for you right now if you want to.
Well, I was having the conversation about selling with Chris.
Yeah.
And Chris, vis-a-vis Yusei Kikuchi specifically, but I think it doesn't only have to apply to him. It can apply to like a variety of UFAs, like such as Danny Jansen or Jimmy Garcia, chief amongst them. And you and I have talked about this off the air, but the simple idea, I think, is where a lot of people fall is, do you want to see if you can make it to the third wild card where, in theory, anything can happen, even if you are like 6.5 or 7 games back or whatever it is right now? Or is it worth just being the first team to pull the trigger on selling? Now, because here's the other part of selling. While I do think it probably should happen, the tough part about it is simply that, there are not a lot of other teams making those decisions. Like, do you want to be the first person to do it? Essentially,
well, I don't think that I'd be in a rush to do it. But I do think, I think for me, there's like 3.5 weeks where you don't have to do anything. Where I would ride pretty hard with what you got and see what happens. If you were at the same position or worse, though, and you were getting to late July, I mean, all the other teams who are in a position to sell, at least at this moment, frankly, are a lot worse than the Blue Jays. I mean, or just have a lot less to offer. If you're talking about a team like Detroit, where they have a similar record, but they have a bunch of young, controllable players, and that's not who you're trying to sell typically. Like, a lot of people look at Oakland, and, would they trade a Rooker or a Miller? I'm not in that front office, but those are controllable players. That's not typically, those are the lowest cost guys you have. Those aren't typically the guys that you want to get rid of. The Blue Jays have more veteran guys that are more expensive and less controllable. And I think a really steep drop off in the fact that over 2/3, if not 3/4 of their roster is not under control after 2025. They kind of need to figure out who's going to play for this baseball team going forward. I mean, they obviously, if they win more games and they're in the mix coming up in 3 weeks, I wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, but, that's fair.
I would arguably add, which I know a lot of people would definitely not look at too favorably. But if they were in a worse position, I'm not saying Bo and Vlad, but I would probably make some moves, even if there were guys that you were interested in bringing back. Like, let's say you want Danny Jansen. Mm-hmm. I don't think that trading a guy makes it impossible to bring him back in the offseason.
Sure, I think it's fair.
If you trade him to a spot where they want to extend him right away, you might know that. I think agents probably communicate all these things. That probably wouldn't be good. But let's say you want Danny Jansen to be your catcher going forward. You can still send him over to someone, get a prospect, and bring him back. I mean, it's a very different player in a very different situation. But the Yankees did this with Aroldis Chapman not that long ago. They traded him. They got Gleyber Torres. And again, it's not the same situation. You're not going to get that caliber. But you'll end up, oh, wow, 1 second. You'll end up, potentially still having a shot to sign this guy back. As we say that, going much higher than at least I expected, Zach Edey's been drafted.
Zach Edey, yeah. I don't mean to completely derail our conversation about selling.
Way bigger news.
The Canada's own and Purdue's own Zach Edey getting drafted number 9 overall by the Memphis Grizzlies. I got to say, that's...
What?
Oh, my gosh. It's a good thing my coffee was on the desk at that point in time. That would have been bad.
Austin loves his drops. We should have told you.
No, I'm cool. I'm down with it.
But I got to say, I was surprised he won a top 10 pick for Zach Edey. I honestly thought there was a chance he was still there when the Raptors made their pick at 19, but now that decision made for you if you're the Raptors.
Yeah, not in my book, having him going top 10. I even thought he might go lower than the Raptors, but I mean, a phenomenal college career. You can never stick away from that. And if you can figure out how to deploy him properly, I mean, certainly he's got a ton of talent. I actually was lucky enough to see him play once this year.
Oh, really?
It was
it's cool.
It was outrageous, watching him play. I mean, he dominated. And there are a bunch of 7-footers now, but he's still pretty massive, even for NBA standards. So that'll be interesting. There's a potential of a Canadian front court with Edey and Brendan Clark playing together. So that's fun.
If you're the Grizzlies and you can add Edey to just kind of stand around in the middle while John Morant and company do what they do, that's probably not a terrible strategy, honestly.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, we're going to take a quick break here, Ben. But before I let you go and put a bow on what we think has been banged, we have not seen an official announcement yet. I don't know if you have, but
no, I'm looking though. I'm pretty sure. I mean, Pete Abraham said, I'm pretty sure it's coming.
Yeah, they're probably just crafting the specific wording of it because it will mean deciding on when this game is going to get replayed. But that's kind of where we are. We're pretty confident there won't be any Jays games played tonight. But I think we're just waiting word on to when that will happen. But before I let you run, I do want to ask you. So, okay, let's operate under the assumption that this game is not happening. Okay?
Sure.
I assume then we are all okay with just skipping this start. And for the Yankees coming to town tomorrow, because the 4-game series starts tomorrow at the Rogers Center, you just go Berríos onwards.
Oh, yeah, you couldn't pitch Rodriguez tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, he's thrown too much today because he would have thrown warming up. He would have thrown, obviously, in the game and then threw, it looked like 3 innings or something. I kind of stopped keeping
track. Kept coming out and throwing warm-up pitches, with Walker.
So, yeah, no, you don't pitch him. And, for better or worse, if this game resumes, you probably absolutely tank your pen. So, now you didn't use your pen that much in this series because you got pretty good starts overall from Bassitt going 7 and Gausman going 6. You really needed that considering you got fewer than 9 innings total out of the starters in Cleveland. So now your pen lines up pretty well, and you're gonna have to have it pitch pretty well against the Yankees, who are sliding a little bit. I think they're losing right now again, and they're like 3-7 in their last 10. But still they're second best record in the American League. Best team in the division per record. That's going to be a tough offense to hold down. So you do kind of get a silver lining there. And you get Berríos. You avoid Luis Gil, which is nice. It's a weird time where I'd rather them avoid Luis Gil at least than Garrett Cole right now. It's going to look really stupid in 4 days. I'm almost sure of it, but we'll see. It'll be fun. I'm excited. That they got the win streak, or not the win streak, the losing streak over with before coming back home. So there can be, I think, a slightly better mood in the ballpark. If they brought the losing streak back home, that would have been tough. So I think it'll be a fun one. And hey, if you go out there and you shock a bit of the baseball world and get, back on track, beat the Yankees in a 4-game series, it's a big deal. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's nice that it lines up to have all of Berríos, Kikuchi, Bassitt, Gausman pitch all of the Yankees games, essentially. Yeah. It does mean, I guess, I suppose it means the next time we see Y-Rod will be for, I guess, Canada Day. Is that how that lines up? Because that's the end of the Yankee series, and then the first game of the Astros series is Canada Day on a Monday. So, which is also at the Rogers Center, of course. So, I guess that's the next time we see him. That series also encompassing Independence Day as well, because that's also a 4-game series at the Rogers Center, which doesn't often happen for
that's
really
right. I didn't
anyone.
even think about that. That's really weird. Almost never do the Blue Jays play at home on July 4th for very obvious reasons. It's kind of they're never going to do that. Usually it's they always have Victoria Day, but not Memorial Day at home.
That's right. Yeah.
That's,
kind of bizarre how the schedule worked out this year. But
I wonder if they wear the, I think they probably will. The 4th of July stuff or whatever.
Have you seen them, by the way?
No.
They actually don't look terrible.
Okay.
Honestly, they're not covered in American flags or there was that one year where it was literally just red, white, and blue. It was just a striped version of that on the logo. They're not doing that this year, which is nice.
It's contentious though to come at the American flag uniform. So I'm gonna withhold any criticism there and say
we're in Canada. It's fine.
I know, but I'll have to go across the border again at some point.
That's Ben Shulman. I'm Show Ali. Ben, I appreciate you doing this for me. We still have no official word on what's happening in Boston, but we imagine it will not be long before we find out that this game has officially been banged. But thanks for doing this for me. And before I actually let you go, you have any particular what's the right word? Any preference for who the Raptors take in the NBA draft? I don't know. I know you're
really know.
You're more college about hoops head than I am.
Which would usually set me up for this, but I don't know exactly what the Raptors need right now.
All right,
it's kind of hard for me to nail on one specific thing.
They have a lot of needs is the problem.
Yeah, I mean, like I think Keyshawn George is in their range, the Miami guard, big afro, which always is a plus for me. But do they need another guard? I don't know. They just went guard last year. It seems like generally people are looking at them taking a big, so it's hard for me to know. I think they got a lot of options, and I do think it's nice that they get the first pick of the second round also.
That's right. 31.
But it's almost, it's almost like not the greatest draft in the world. So I'm not sure that this is, you never know, but I'm not sure this is the draft that like revolutionizes many franchises going forward. I mean, then again, I don't know a lot about all three of the French guys who went in the top 6. So they could be way better than I think. I know France is going to be good in the Olympics in 4 years. I'll tell you that.
I do believe that there is a Canada-France friendly in the first 20 days of July. So,
well, they're going to be good this Olympics too. I should say they're tough. They're really tough. We'll see. I almost would. And this is not anti-Canada sentiment. I might pick France to win the silver. To be honest.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think they're really good. They got Wemby added now.
Actually, yeah, that's true. It's a USA-France gold medal game would be pretty fun to watch.
Be fun. I mean, I would love USA-Canada more. Don't get me wrong, but I worry about that French team.
Quickly, actually, before I let you go, I ended my conversation with Blair this way, and I'll end it with you as well. Canada beat Peru 1-0.
Heck yeah.
In the Copa America tournament. I said to Blair that I think it might actually be maybe the biggest win in Canadian soccer history. I suppose the only thing that I could really think that competes with it, at least in this generation of the men's team, certainly, because I mean the women's team won a gold medal at the Olympics. I mean, they're tough to compare,
they
right?
Are significantly better. Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely tough to compare those two programs. But the men's program did, when they beat Jamaica at BMO Field, qualified for the World Cup. So
I think that's probably my biggest win.
Yeah, those two are pretty similar. I was actually at that game. God, it was cold.
Cool.
But what do you think? In terms of stature for the program, it's a pretty big one.
It is a pretty big one. I think it becomes a slightly bigger one. What do they do against Chile? If they draw or win and make the group stage, then I slide more over into your camp. I still might land on the Jamaica one because the World Cup's the World Cup. But if they convert this into a trip into the knockout stage, that's a pretty big deal. Because kind of once you get to the knockout stage, we saw this in the last World Cup, really anything could happen.
Sure.
Because you're just playing one game playoffs and you really don't know. And Canada does have a benefit of, they have a goalkeeper that can keep them in a lot of games, I think. So if they can convert it into the knockout stage, that's when it gets really, really interesting, I think. Chile is a tough opponent. I'll be very excited to watch that game.
I'm excited too. I gotta say, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
I'm a pretty neutral soccer fan, all things considered. I'm not gonna pretend to be super knowledgeable about them, but
do you follow any domestic leagues? Do you follow Toronto FC at all?
I mean, I kind, you know what? I kind of did when I first started working here. Because when I first started working here was right around the time when TFC was pretty competitive, with Giovinco and that was fun. I actually covered. I worked a lot of those games when they were at. So we played some of those games. Dan Riccio called the play-by-play for their playoff games on the Fan, which is pretty crazy. But it is pretty funny. It's a different era now, so less so, I would say. I feel like I actually follow the Argos more these days.
Fair. I jumped in, admittedly, I'd followed Premier League soccer before, but I jumped in when they brought Jermaine Defoe in.
Oh, yeah.
Hashtag it's a bloody big deal.
Yes.
And it kind of, I think, makes me not a bandwagon, even though I was, because they were bad that year, because Defoe was hurt the whole time. So, but no, they're fun. But there's nothing like international soccer competition, I really think. It just seems to have so much energy behind it. And Canada has been such a non-factor for a while. So to be in the mix in tournaments, I mean, they're going to play in a second straight World Cup because they have a host qualification, obviously, but they might have qualified anyway for that World Cup.
That's true, yeah.
And now they're, potentially, if they make the knockout stage in Copa America, you start become a real country that people take notice. I don't want to say not to be disparaging, but a country that people outside of North America are going to take notice to before. I don't think that many people in England, France, Spain, Germany were talking about Canadian soccer before Alfonso Davies and and credit to Atiba Hutchinson and all these guys who got them to the World Cup last time out.
You're probably right. I think it's what I'm hearing is that we're going to have to get you accredited for the World Cup.
Oh my gosh, please do. Because if you don't, I'm going to spend so much money. Like there's no, because when's the World Cup coming back? So I'm going to have to spend, to spend whatever they charge, which is going to be a lot.
If it's during the Blue Jay season, we'll have to just hope it's on an off day.
I get limited time off.
Oh, okay.
I will spend it there.
So you're saying we'll hear Eric Smith on the call?
Unfortunately, I don't think Eric will go to the games, the World Cup games, if that was an ambition of his, but we'll see.
That's Ben Shulman. I'm Show Ali. Ben, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That is Ben Shulman, the voice of the Blue Jays here on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Still no word on whether or not this game has officially been banged, but again, the operative word we're going with right now is that it has been. Is just we're waiting for the official announcement to come down from on high for us from Fenway Park. Pete Abraham, who is a reporter for the Boston Globe and has been one for many, many, many years, reporting that the game has been banged and they're just waiting for the official announcement. But that's where we are. You're listening to the Blue Jays Rain Delay program. Show Ali with you on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll go back and check out the NBA Draft. The Chicago Bulls just making their pick right now. We'll hear a little bit, if this game still has not been banged, from John Morosi, who was on with Ben Ennis and Brent Gunning earlier this morning on the Fan Morning Show. So right now, at least, still lots to come on the Rain Delay program. Show Ali with you. I'll be back after this on the Sportsnet Radio Network.
Packing for a long-haul summer drive in my Subaru. We start off with a 4-person tent, 400 thread count quilt, hammock, flippers, goggles, 2 carbon fiber fishing rods, sunscreen, foot cream, portable sauna, dry-aged woodblocks, cast iron smoker, 3 suckling pigs, a boatload of seasoning, an actual boat, 1 mountain bike, 1 road bike, 1 gravel bike, and my inflatable water slide. Then I load up my Bernese Mountain Dog and head out. Squeeze more value out of summer with a Subaru and standard symmetrical full-time all-wheel drive. Visit your local Subaru dealer today and book a test drive during the fully loaded summer event.
You're active. You work out. Try Gold Standard 100% Whey, the world's #1 whey protein powder. Gold Standard 100% Whey contains a source of protein for maintenance of good health. Available in great tasting flavors. Gold Standard 100% Whey, only from Optimum Nutrition, the world's #1 sports nutrition brand. Find Optimum Nutrition Gold Standard 100% Whey wherever sports supplements are sold. This product may not be right for you. Always read and follow the label.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate online at carsforkids.ca. That's cars with a K. Pickup is quick and easy. You'll benefit a child and get a maximum tax credit.
1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate today, and your car can be gone tomorrow.
439 Pizza Nova. 439 Pizza Nova.
As you sit back and relax this summertime, we want to remind you that the official Italian translation for barbecue is actually pizza, which means it's the perfect option for the patio. Ciao, I'm Dominic Trinucci, inviting you to make summertime Pizza Nova time.
439 Pizza Nova. 439 Pizza Nova.
You're active. You work out. Try Gold Standard 100% Whey, the world's #1 whey protein powder. Gold Standard 100% Whey contains a source of protein for maintenance of good health. Available in great tasting flavors. Gold Standard 100% Whey, only from Optimum Nutrition, the world's #1 sports nutrition brand. Find Optimum Nutrition Gold Standard 100% Whey wherever sports supplements are sold. This product may not be right for you. Always read and follow the label.
Every time summer hits, I get this wild urge to get sweet, spicy, and sophisticated. I'm going to Margapalooza, baby.
It's back. The city's favorite margarita festival. It's Margapalooza, only at Lone Star. Why not try the all-new Fireball in Paradise margarita or Banana Raspberry Creamsicle? With 28 amazingly tasty margaritas to choose, you can tag the whole crew because summer only comes once a year. Margapalooza, on now at Lone Star. Your home for fajitas, Ritas, and good times. Visit LoneStar.ca.
Hi, this is Greg Carrasco from Oakville Nissan, and this is the Spring into Savings event. For a very limited time, you can get the unbelievably sexy 2024 Nissan Rogue for only 2.99% lease rate. And as far as lease rates is concerned, this one is a good one. So before you make any car buying decisions, you need to come and see me. There is something happening here at OakvilleNissan.com.
Hey, this is Trevor Richards. You're listening to Toronto Blue Jays Baseball on the Sportsnet Radio Network.
All right, welcome back to the Blue Jays rain delay program. Show Alley with you on the Sportsnet Radio Network as I welcome you back inside a very quiet baseball control. And let me tell you this, like I said before, what we usually get here at Baseball Control, there are two TVs in here, okay? There's a small TV and a larger TV, both actually pretty big, so it's all relative. But usually what we get are the feeds of the opposing stadium. I mean, I'm always here. So whether it's the Rogers Center or the Sportsnet feed, but there's the Blue Jays feed, and then there's the other team's feed. And so I had two feeds going on here. One of the Nesson feed of Fenway Park, and then of course Sportsnet feed of Fenway as well. And the Rogers feed, like the Sportsnet feed, just went dead, which seems pretty apropos because the game has officially been suspended. The official word coming down is that this game has been banged. It will resume on August 25th at 2:05 p.m. Eastern, which is a part of a split doubleheader before a 7:10 p.m. Eastern game. So there you go. No Blue Jays baseball tonight. You are freed from your nightly obligations, everyone. Let me get you back over to the guys who will put a bow on today's inning and a bit of work. Here's Ben Schulman and Chris LaRue.
Thank you very much, Joe. The Blue Jays and Red Sox will pick this game up on August 26th as part of a split doubleheader, but right now suspended at 0-0 with a runner on first and one out in the top of the second. Not much to analyze from this one, Chris, but the Blue Jays split the series in Boston and now set up a pretty fun one starting tomorrow at Rogers Center against the New York Yankees.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this series for a long time. It's always fun to have the Yankees come into town. And you were telling me when, I don't know if it was on air or not, but the Yankees are struggling. They're not the same team that they were 3 weeks ago when they were just running through everybody. They're 3-7 in their last 10.
Yeah, and I believe, I haven't looked recently, that they're still losing tonight to the Mets at the same time. Still definitely a team to look out for. Top of the division, second best record in the American League. But maybe an opportunity here for the Blue Jays to take some of that momentum from the win yesterday and bring it into the series against the Yankees. We will have action of that first game against New York coming up tomorrow. First pitch from Rogers Center goes at 7:07 Eastern. It's a 4-game set between the Blue Jays and the Yankees, and it starts with a matchup of Jose Barrios and Carlos Rodon at 7:07 tomorrow. Tonight's game suspended until late August. Appreciate you tuning in, and apologies for the weather. For our technical director today, Austin Mackey, our host and producer, Show Ali, and my partner, Chris LaRue. Hope you have a good night and stick around. A lot more coverage of everything sports coming up on the Fan 590.
Not tomorrow, not someday. The home improvements begin today. It's game on with Timber Mart. Build that deck, raise that fence, landscape till your property is beautiful. Don't pay for 12 months on the Timber Mart Deferred Payment Program. Your locally owned, completely Canadian hub of building and renovation expertise. Get your Timber Mart credit card at participating locations and pay later. 12 months later. Conditions apply. Ask in store for details or apply at timbermart.ca.
Bring it in, Canada. When it comes to small business, Dejardins is a big fan. And not just the hop on the bandwagon fan. We're the in it for the long haul fan. The fan that's been there from the start. That's why Dejardins awarded 150 entrepreneurs with Good Spark grants worth $20,000 each. Because like any fan, there's nothing we love more than celebrating a goal!
See how Dejardins is cheering on small business at goodsparkgrants.ca.
At
Crown Rust Control Center, protection runs deep. Because every Crown Rust Control Center is owned by a local family who cares beyond business. Your Crown Rust Control Center is 100% committed to their product, to you, to their community, which is your community. Protecting you and what matters to you is equally important as protecting your vehicle. Did you know your vehicle rusts faster in warm weather? Protect your vehicle today. For a special summer offer, find your local family-owned Crown Rust Control Center at crown.com.
Bring it in, Canada. When it comes to small business, Dejardins is a big fan. And not just the hop-on-the-bandwagon fan. We're the in-it-for-the-long-haul fan. The fan that's been there from the start. That's why Dejardins awarded 150 entrepreneurs with Good Spark grants worth $20,000 each. Because like any fan, there's nothing we love more than celebrating a goal!
See how Dejardins is cheering on small business at goodsparkgrants.ca.
At Crown Rust Control, protection runs deep because every Crown Rust Control Center is owned by a local family who cares beyond business. Your Crown Rust Control is 100% committed to their product, to you, to their community, which is your community. Protecting you and what matters to you is equally important as protecting your vehicle.
Did you know your vehicle rusts faster in warm weather? Protect your vehicle today. For a special summer offer, find your local family-owned Crown Rust Control Center at crown.com. At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. That's why we introduced in-game betting. Because when the game starts, the action doesn't stop. With in-game betting, you can wager on game props, player props, totals, and the money line. And remember, in-game, you can track your same-day parlay with the option to cash out. Check out in-game betting and find out why. It's never ordinary at Bet365.
Must be 19 years or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has concerns about gambling, visit connexontario.ca.
The hardest work should lead to the best quality of life. If you're a skilled trades worker, you might not be feeling that way right now. But in Alberta, skilled trades workers can earn more, save more, and live more with better wages and a lower cost of living. Visit AlbertaISCalling.ca. Learn more about the $5,000 moving bonus for the first 2,000 skilled trades workers who move to Alberta, stay for a year, and successfully apply. A message from the Government of Alberta.
At NEWBOUR, we develop unique plans so people can unlock the equity in their home. Unique like this one. It's called the Susan Plan. Susan works at a vet clinic and had a sudden change in income. When the bank said no, we said yes and helped her refinance her debt. Now Susan can spend less time examining her finances and more time with her good boys. Reach out today. We'll work side by side to unlock the equity in your home.
Use your home to get a loan with NEWBOUR.
License 13115.
Or at heathwood.com.
Baseball fans, no matter who your team is, the Believe Podcast Network has you covered. Every team, every topic, everywhere. The most passionate fans and the most knowledgeable former players bring you the in-depth analysis you crave with podcasts dedicated to your team and your team only. Search Believe right now on